Chapter 1329. Chief, we're sorry. The first female warrior who put down her gun stood in front of Li and I, looking guilty. She wanted to say all the apologies she knew, but she also knew that it was meaningless and not enough. Li and I smiled faintly. Hunyo, don't apologize to me and don't feel guilty. I can understand you. Black Tiger threatened you, and you were surrounded by the people of the Hard Stone tribe. Everyone wanted to live, and you just made the only choice. The only choice, but it didn't mean it was the right choice. Li Ni's words made the warriors of Peace Village feel ashamed. This was actually what Charlotte wanted to see. If he simply wanted to kill the two main culprits, Black Tiger and Big Bear, just now in the forest, he could solve the problem with 2 bullets, and there was no need to make it so complicated. But the warriors of Peace Village were not easy to deal with. If they were all killed, who would protect the village? So in this way, Li and I could establish her power and reunite the warriors of Peace Village by her side. This was the best result. I finally understand your intentions, Ramona said as she moved closer to Xiaolei. Her eyes were filled with respect. Charlotte smiled. You missed a word. What? Ramona looked at Charlotte curiously. Charlotte said, good intentions. Ramona rolled her eyes at Charlotte and said, you're so smug. Then she smiled again. Teacher Xia, let's go home, Li and I said. Okay, let's go home, Charlotte said with a smile. Go home? No one noticed the mistake in this sentence. The bodies of Black Tiger and Big Bear were casually thrown in the forest by the warriors of Peace Village. They would become food for beasts and bacteria, and that was the end they deserved. The team returned to Peace Village. Although it was night, all the people of Peace Village came out to welcome them. No one talked about what happened in the garbage dump and the forest, and no one asked about Black Tiger and Big Bear. In the future, someone would definitely ask about these 2 people, but no one would care about them, and no one would think about them, because these 2 people were the cancer of this village. Charlotte followed Li and I back to her home. He brought back his loot, some gun parts and ammunition, as well as the Avenger 1000 sniper rifle. You should rest early. You must be exhausted today, Li and I said with concern. Charlotte said, I'm not tired yet. I want to modify my gun. I want to borrow the storage room. No problem, but this isn't a storeroom. It's just a storeroom. I'll get you something to eat. Li and I smiled at Charlotte, then walked towards the kitchen. Charlotte said, Village head, you're welcome. I'm not hungry. Li and I turned around and smiled, then went into the kitchen. Charlotte smiled bitterly and shook his head. He then entered Li Ni's storage room filled with metal garbage. There were no windows in the storeroom. Once the door was closed, it would be an enclosed space. He lit an oil lamp in the storeroom and began to fiddle with the gun parts, as well as the Avenger 1000 sniper rifle. When he started, he realized that modifying a gun, which was a common thing for him on Earth, was very difficult here. He faced 2 difficulties. The first was that he didn't have a machine. Although Li and I had some tools, they couldn't meet his requirements. The second difficulty was his eyes. The energy field in the sky affected the energy of his branding power. He couldn't use the microvision and scanning abilities of his eyes. He couldn't process the high-precision gun parts he needed. After fiddling with it for a while, Charlotte felt a little discouraged. It seems that I have to get a simple manual machine first. Then, I have to wait until the energy shield disappears to process the gun parts one need. Only then can I modify the gun I want. Making a manual machine in the new world required a certain amount of time. However, in this new world, he was not short of time. Charlotte's gaze shifted to the large pile of metal garbage in the corner of the room. He then walked over. Let's start with you guys. Let's see if there's anything I want. While he was looking for useful parts in the metal garbage, his brain was also sketching out the blueprint of a manual machine. This kind of thing was already a walk in the park for him. There was no problem at all. His brain could independently study the extremely complicated fighter jets like the Kuan Pung bomber, so a manual machine was nothing to him. Ding ding dang dang, ding ding dang dang dang. The sound of metal colliding came from the storeroom. Some of it was the sound of metal garbage being thrown, and some of it was the sound of parts being removed from the metal garbage. After coming to the new world, this was the first time Charlotte was immersed in the world of mechanics. This feeling that he hadn't felt for a long time made him feel comfortable. Half an hour later, Lienai came to the storeroom. She cooked a bowl of porridge and a cucumber for Charlotte. This was the supper she made. Charlotte looked at the cucumber covered in thorns and then at Lienai under the light. For some reason, he had a strange feeling. "Why are you looking at me? Hurry up and eat or else the porridge will get cold." "It's very cold here at night," Lienai said. Charlotte was not hungry at all, but she had worked so hard to cook for him. If he did not eat at all, it would be too unreasonable. "Thank you." Charlotte took the bowl and the cucumber, squatted in the corner of the room, and ate. There was a period of time on Earth when he was extremely disgusted with normal food. However, after drinking a large amount of milk, he embarked on an unprecedented path of evolution, and his body was also corrected. Therefore, after that time, he no longer hated normal food. Now, he did not feel any discomfort when eating porridge and cucumber. Lienai looked at Charlotte with a smile. "Your table manners are really ugly." Charlotte mumbled, "Go rest. Don't worry about me. I'll bring the bowl to the kitchen after I'm done eating." Lienai did not leave. Her gaze moved to the large pile of parts that Charlotte had dismantled. She was instantly attracted and asked curiously, "Teacher Xia, didn't you want to modify a gun? Why did you dismantle these parts? They are obviously not parts for making guns. They are mechanical parts that the Blue Moon people threw away. I want to use them to find a machine tool." Charlotte did not hide his motive. Making a machine tool? Lienai was so surprised that she could not close her mouth. Charlotte nodded. "Isn't it just a machine tool? Why are you so surprised? Have you never seen it wake up?" Lienai shook her head. "We don't have a machine tool here, and I have never seen one. However, I know that the Resistance Army has them. They use them to make weapons." "The purpose of making a machine tool is to modify weapons," Charlotte said. Lienai had a look of disbelief on her face. "Although I have never seen a real machine tool, I know what it is. How can you make a machine tool? And you are using these broken and useless parts." Charlotte smiled. "Then you just wait and see. I will definitely make a machine tool. Didn't you forget everything? Then how can you remember something as complicated as waking up early?" Lienai stared at Charlotte, her eyes full of suspicion. Charlotte stood up and placed the bowl in Lienai's hands. "Well, I'm done eating. You can take the bowl back. Don't change the subject." Lienai had no intention of leaving. Charlotte felt a headache coming on. Why were women so curious? Just as Charlotte was wondering how to explain it to her, the sound of a baby crying came from outside the yard. Charlotte then changed the subject. "It's so late. Why is there a baby crying outside?" Lienai glared at Charlotte. "It must be the doctor in our village, Lin Qing. Her child is only 3 months old." Charlotte heard her talk about the doctor in Pingon village, but he didn't know her name. Now he knew that it was a woman's name. He didn't expect that there would be a female doctor in such a small village. "Lienai, are you asleep?" A woman's voice came from outside the yard. Her voice was very young. "Wait a minute. I'll go out and see what's wrong with her." Lienai went out. Charlotte stood at the door and watched. He saw Lienai open the door, and then a young woman came in. The woman was holding a swaddle in her hands. There was a baby in the swaddle. The little guy was crying uneasily. The woman was only in her 20s. She looked very young. She was about 1.7 meters tall. Her chest was very full and bulging. Her butt was also very full and bulging. She looked very sexy. Her face was like an apple. Her skin was very white, and her cheeks were a little red. She looked very cute. A beautiful, sexy, and cute pregnant woman. This was Charlotte's first impression of the female doctor named Lin Qing. Chapter 1330. Lin Qing thought that she had met a pervert. She thought that this teacher Xia had been staring at her chest. Not only looking, but also stretching out his mouth. This made her nervous, and she subconsciously took 2 steps back. Charlotte seemed to understand something. He finally moved his eyes away from her bulging chest and said apologetically, "Did I make you uncomfortable? I'm sorry, I'm sick." Was looking at a woman's chest an illness? If it was, then it must be a pervert's disease. Lin Qing thought so in her heart, but she didn't pay attention to Charlotte. She was waiting for Li and I to come back. Then she would take her tomatoes and leave this place, far away from this pervert. Charlotte shrugged. "It seems that I really made you uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm really sick. When I saw you, my illness acted up." What illness do you have?" Lin Qing was a doctor after all. Charlotte's words had aroused her interest. Another reason why she was willing to talk to Charlotte was that Charlotte repeatedly apologized to her. He looked very sincere. Her heart was not as nervous and uncomfortable as before. Milk thirst. Charlotte looked serious. "I want to drink milk." "Pervert!" Lin Qing softly scolded. In her opinion, there was no such thing as milk thirst in this world. The man in front of her just wanted to lie to her and take advantage of her. "Dr. Lin, can you give me some?" Charlotte looked at Lin Qing with eyes full of desire. "If you talk nonsense again, I'll call someone." Lin Qing nervously looked at Charlotte and took a step back. Charlotte secretly scolded himself for being too anxious. But he really couldn't suppress his desire for milk. That desire was so strong that he couldn't suppress it. At this time, every cell in his body seemed to be shouting, "I want to drink milk. I want to drink milk." "Dr. Lin, I know you've misunderstood me. I'm not the kind of lecherous man you think I am. I really have a disease. If I don't drink milk, my condition will become very serious. Forget it, let's not talk about me." Charlotte smiled bitterly and changed the topic. "Dr. Lin, where's your husband? It's so late at night and you're a woman walking around with a child. Is he at ease?" "He is dead," Lin Qing said. "I'm sorry," Charlotte said apologetically. "I didn't know your husband had already." "You don't have to apologize to him." There was hatred in Lin Qing's eyes. "He is not my husband at all. He raped me and made me pregnant with a child. But when I needed help the most, he planned to sell me to a middleman. After I found out about his plan, I escaped while he was drunk, and then I escaped here." "So he's not dead, is he?" "In my heart, he is already dead," Lin Qing said. Charlotte said, "If you really want him to die, I can help you kill him." "Are you an assassin?" "No, I'm a teacher." Charlotte smiled. "You just heard it, Li and I also called me Teacher Xia." Lin Qing whispered, "How can there be a teacher like you? One moment you want to drink milk, the next moment you want to kill." Charlotte said, "Please believe me, I'm not a bad person. You're a woman with a child, you can't get food at all. If you can't keep up with the nutrition, how can you feed your child? How about this, I'll feed you and your child, you just need to give me some milk." Lin Qing looked at Charlotte with a strange look. Her eyes were filled with hesitation and suspicion. Charlotte continued to persuade, "You can't come to Li and I every day to ask for tomatoes, right? Besides, you can't eat tomatoes every day, you have to eat meat. Your body needs protein, so your milk can feed your child. Every kilogram of tomatoes only contains 0.9 grams of protein, which is not enough. You also want your child to grow up healthily. I can help you, and you can help me." Lin Qing was still hesitant. Charlotte said, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you and your child. I'll give you food and other help you need. You just need to give me some milk every day." Lin Qing bit her lips. "I won't sleep with you. Seeing her loosening up, Charlotte was relieved. He smiled and said, Dr. Lin, how many times do you want me to tell you before you believe that I'm not that kind of person? You can't eat with your mouth, I'll squeeze for you. Lin Qing's apple-like face blushed. She was shy. Then we have a deal. Charlotte reached out a hand to Lin Qing, happy cooperation. I won't shake hands with you, we don't want to have any physical contact. Lin Qing said. Charlotte, since when did Director Xia of Rema Group be guarded against by a woman like this? What are you talking about? Li and I walked over with a smile on her face. She was carrying a basket full of tomatoes. Lin Qing was about to say something, but she saw Charlotte winked at her, so she changed her words. Just chatting. Tomatoes for you, Sister Lin. If you need any help in the future, don't hesitate to ask me. Li and I said. Lin Qing took the basket from Li Ni's hand. Thank you, I'm sorry. I can't always bother you, it's not easy for you. Dr. Lin, let me help you, it's not convenient for you to hold the child alone. Charlotte didn't wait for Lin Qing's response. He took the basket full of tomatoes from her hand. All right, Teacher Xia, please send Sister Lin home. Li and I said. Lin Qing wanted to refuse, but Charlotte already carried the basket to the door. Let's go, Dr. Lin. Charlotte turned around and smiled at Lin Qing. He was good-looking, his smile was also very nice, but Lin Qing thought he was trouble. However, she finally nodded and followed Charlotte out of the door. She and Xia Lei had reached a deal to exchange milk for food, but she didn't want to milk Xia Lei every day and send milk to him, so it was necessary to let him know where she lived. That was what she thought. The night shrouded Pingon village, the night here was quiet. There was no one walking in the village, but the wind was blowing in the forest across the river, and the tree crowns were gently swaying, making a rustling sound, which was like a hypnotic song. Charlotte followed Lin Qing to the other side of the village, but Lin Qing didn't stop. She continued to walk forward until they reached a forest a few hundred meters away from the village, and then she said, My home is inside. Charlotte said, Why do you live so far away? It's not safe. Lin Qing said, I don't want to either, but when I came here, there was only one house. The previous owner of the house died, and Li and I gave it to me. I don't have the ability to build my own house, so I'm satisfied with my own house. While talking, Charlotte followed Lin Qing into the forest, and a broken bark house came into his sight. The frame of the bark house was made of wood, but it wasn't strong, and there were signs of tilting. There was also a hole in the roof, and its diameter was enough for a pumpkin to fall in. Such a house, as long as there was a strong wind, it might collapse. Seeing such a scene, Charlotte felt a little sour in his heart. I'm here, you can go back. Lin Qing said. No hurry, I'll help you take it into the house. Charlotte said, and then he opened the door and walked in. Lin Qing wanted to stop him, but Charlotte had already walked in. She was a little nervous, so she followed him in. The house was small, but it was very clean. There were a lot of herbs on a wooden shelf, exuding a strong smell of herb. There was a small bed, a box, and some cooking utensils, such as pots and bowls. However, those pots and bowls were cleaner than if they had been licked. Obviously, they hadn't been touched for a long time. You are really a doctor. Did you learn Chinese medicine? Charlotte asked casually. Chinese medicine? What Chinese medicine? My father taught me medicine, Lin Qing said. He was a good man, and he saved a lot of people. But one day, the people of Lan Yu appeared, and he was eaten. Don't be sad, everything will be fine. Charlotte comforted her, and then he said in his heart, Chinese medicine is something from the earth, and only China has it. Even if it migrated to this planet, after such a long time, its development will certainly not be the same as the Chinese medicine on the earth. So, it's normal that Lin Qing doesn't know the existence of Chinese medicine. However, no matter how it develops, as far as these herbs are concerned, the root of this medicine must be built on the foundation of Chinese medicine. You should go back, Lin Qing urged. She felt very nervous when Charlotte was in her room. Charlotte didn't move. He looked at Lin Qing and said, "Give me some milk, I will go back after drinking some." You haven't given me any meat yet." Lin Qing's face suddenly turned red because of the word milk that Charlotte just said. Charlotte said, "You give me milk, and I will teach you some medical skills. Just treat it as an exchange for your milk. You also have medical skills." Lin Qing was very surprised. Charlotte not only had medical skills, he had also learned it on the earth. He even used a few needles to treat Shinturen, who was suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease. In fact, he not only knew Chinese medicine, but also Western medicine. The medical knowledge that he had read in the past was still stored in his brain. He could easily find a little bit to teach to Lin Qing to make her medical skills more exquisite. "I don't believe that you have medical skills." "Then tell me, if a person has a cold, how can you cure him?" As soon as he mentioned medical skills, Lin Qing suddenly became interested. She didn't want to chase Charlotte away. Charlotte's eyes moved to the herbs on the wooden shelf. He had a headache because he had never seen those herbs before. He didn't even know the name of those herbs. Should he tell her that he had remembered the Chinese medicine prescription to cure a cold? No way. "I don't like people who brag. You should go," Lin Qing said. Charlotte braced himself and said, "Ephedra 10 grams, cassia twig, white peony, dried ginger, roasted licorice 15 grams each, asarum 5 grams, Pinellia 12 grams, Schisandra 5 grams, this prescription can cure a cold." Lin Qing was slightly stunned. "What kind of prescription is this? I've never heard of those herbs before." Sure enough, the world was different. How could the names of the herbs be the same? Charlotte recalled and then said, "In fact, you don't need to use herbs. You put the patient in a closed space and use fire to burn a few stones until the stones become red hot. Then, use a ladle to pour water on the stones. This can also reduce the patient's symptoms." What kind of medical skill is this?" Lin Qing looked at Charlotte with a strange look. Charlotte smiled. "This is called steam therapy. Through steam, the patient's blood flow will be unblocked, sweating, the patient's cold symptoms will naturally be reduced. Then, if the patient takes a little decoction, there should be no problem." "You really have medical skills." Lin Qing's face revealed a smile. "What else do you know? Tell me. Even my father didn't know about this method." "You are a special person." Charlotte said, "I will tell you tomorrow. Now give me some milk, I am almost." He pursed his lips, the milk in his stomach almost crawled out of his throat. You go out, I will give you milk." Lin Qing's face blushed again. "Okay, thank you." Charlotte followed her out of the door. Chapter 1331. Bang. Looking at the old wooden door closed, Charlotte couldn't help but smile bitterly. Thinking of the days when he could drink milk whenever he wanted, he couldn't help but feel homesick. How are my wives? How are the children? And the 4 female knights, the zodiac team? Charlotte looked up at the night sky. The sky was full of twinkling stars, the huge blue moon was hanging in the blue sky. He couldn't find the direction of the blue planet. The hope of going home had never been extinguished, but how could he go back? The road home was long. "Wait for me, my wives, my children, I will come back." Charlotte made a wish to the stars. Creak, the wooden door was opened. Lin Qing came out of the house. She was holding a bowl in her hand. The fragrance of milk diffused from the bowl, suddenly seducing a man's mind. Charlotte quickly walked up and couldn't wait to take the bowl from Lin Qing's hand. The bowl was half filled with milky white liquid, it was fragrant, it was as smooth as silk. Xiaolei picked up the bowl and started drinking. Gulp, gulp, gulp. In just a few mouthfuls, he had emptied the small bowl of milk. Unsatisfied, he even stuck out his tongue and licked the bottom of the bowl clean. "Pervert!" A voice came out of Lin Qing's heart. This voice could only be heard by herself. Of course, Charlotte couldn't hear Lin Qing calling him a pervert. After licking the bottom of the bowl clean, he stood there motionless, as if he was suddenly poisoned and turned into a vegetable. But the real situation was absolutely not like this. The small half-bowl of milk entered his body. He felt his body slowly burning. His stomach and intestines quickly digested the milk that entered his body, and then transported it through the blood to the rest of his body. At this moment, every cell in his body was singing in joy. It was as if he had just woken up from a deep slumber and was brimming with vitality. His branding power was limited by the energy field of the blue moon, unable to operate normally, but that didn't mean it didn't exist. In fact, it had always been in his body, like a beast trapped in a cage. Even if it was a beast trapped in a cage, it still needed to eat. Right now, the energy of his branding power was eating in the cage. It absorbed the energy of nurturing life and then fed his body. More importantly, the cosmic branding that formed the core of his soul was also absorbing the energy of nurturing life. The blue moon in the sky could limit the operation of the branding power, but it couldn't limit his evolution. So as long as he kept drinking milk, his branding power would become more and more powerful, his evolution would be more and more perfect. You drank the milk, you can go now, Lin Qing said. Xia Lei finally recovered from the enjoyment of drinking milk. His eyes moved to Lin Qing's bulging breasts. He felt a bit unsatisfied, but he also knew that he couldn't be too hasty. Moreover, a woman who couldn't even fill her stomach could squeeze out so much milk for him. That was already very good. He returned the bowl to Lin Qing and said with a smile, "You should also rest early. I will come back tomorrow. Don't worry, as long as I am here, I will definitely raise you and your son to be healthy." Lin Qing's face turned red again. She nervously said, "Don't talk nonsense. Who are you to me to make us fat?" Charlotte realized that he had said something wrong. He smiled awkwardly. "Then I'm leaving. See you tomorrow." Lin Qing watched Charlotte walk away. After a long time, she said, "Pervert." Then, her face turned gloomy, because Charlotte was a pervert, and she had to rely on the help of a pervert to get through this difficult time. Using her own milk in exchange for help, such a thing made her ashamed, but for the sake of the child, she had to agree to Charlotte's deal. When he returned to Lini's home, she was still awake, waiting for him. "Dr. Lin's home is not far. Why did you go there for so long?" Lini asked Charlotte. Charlotte said, "We chatted for a while, so it took some time. By the way, she is very pitiful. I decided to help her. Tomorrow, I will go hunting in the forest and get some meat for her. She can't feed the child without nutrition." Lini was surprised. "You want to go hunting in the forest? It is very dangerous in the forest. If you are unlucky, you may encounter a blue dragon." Charlotte said, "No problem, I will take care of myself." Why do you help her?" Lini looked at Charlotte's eyes, as if she wanted to see through his mind. Charlotte smiled. "She and the child are pitiful. I want to help them. There is no other reason." "Well, you go rest. I have to dismantle some parts." "It's so late, don't you sleep?" "I'm not sleepy, you go to sleep." Charlotte walked to the utility room. He only needed 2 hours of sleep every day. He didn't want to waste more time on sleeping. Watching Charlotte enter the utility room, Lini said, "Does he like widows?" Charlotte didn't hear this. He didn't tell the truth to Lini. He couldn't say it. A man asking a widow for milk, how could he say such a thing? Charlotte busied himself in the utility room all night, only sleeping for a while when it was almost dawn. Lini hadn't woken up yet, and he took the Avenger 1000 and the bow he stopped last night to go hunting. The bow he made was a metal bow, made from dismantled metal parts and pieces, as well as wire rope. This bow required at least 700 pounds of strength to pull, and ordinary people would definitely not be able to do it, but it was no problem for him. He didn't test how much strength he had, but it was no problem for him to exceed 500 pounds. This was just the strength of his limbs. If he awakened the power of the brand, it would be no problem to increase it by several times. With a bow, of course, there were arrows. His arrows were also made from the metal pieces of the Blue Moon people. The arrowhead was sharp, and the shaft was also made of metal, very stable. Such an arrow, if it reached the speed of a bullet, would be several times more powerful than a bullet. The light of dawn dispelled the darkness, and the forest was quiet. Xia Lei came to a forest in the north of Pingan village. He stopped, took the metal bow that was slung over his shoulder, drew a metal arrow from the quiver, and placed it on the bowstring made of steel rope. He took a deep breath, pulled the metal bow, and aimed the arrow at a tree about 30 centimeters in diameter. Bang! The bowstring moved, and a metal arrow flew out. The metal arrow flew in a straight trajectory, second only to the speed of a bullet. The metal arrow left a silver afterimage in the air, and then it plunged into the trunk of the tree. Crack! Wood splinters flew everywhere, and the metal arrow instantly pierced through the tree. Charlotte stared at the arrow that was polished from a piece of plastic that was left outside the trunk, dumbfounded. He made this bow, but he never expected it to have such terrifying power. This kind of power had surpassed the average assault rifle, and even the light sniper rifle, second only to the anti-material sniper rifle. After being stunned for a while, Charlotte's eyes fell on the metal bow in his hand. Because he did not have the right tools, his bow was actually very ugly, like a child's toy. It was ugly, but it was useful. With this bow, he did not have to worry about the problem of ammunition anymore. This bow could be used for hunting, and it could even be used in battle. The arrows it shot could not even be blocked by bulletproof vests. When I finish the machine, I will definitely make a better bow. This world lacks ammunition, and a strong bow can solve a lot of problems, Charlotte thought to himself. He walked to the tree and pulled the arrow out of the trunk. The arrow was still intact, and the shoulder was still sharp. There was not even a trace of wear. The only thing that was destroyed when the arrow was pulled out was the feather made from the plastic. The metal manufacturing technology of the Blue Moon people is too powerful. Can we defeat such a powerful enemy? Charlotte smiled bitterly, feeling a little helpless. Suddenly, a sound came from the forest in front of him. Xia Lei collected his thoughts and stealthily headed in the direction of the sound. Soon, a prey entered his sight. The prey had fangs in its big mouth, and its nose was like that of a wild boar. With its fat body and 4 hooves, it looked like a wild boar from Earth. However, there was a pair of antlers on its head, so he was not sure if it was a wild boar or a wild deer. "I'm sorry, but I have to kill you. Dr. Lin needs nutrition, and I need Dr. Lin's milk," Charlotte said to himself, and then he pulled the bow and arrow. Whoosh! The furious arrow reached the front of the prey in an instant, and then plunged into its body. The prey weighed at least 200 kilograms, but Xia Lei's arrow was able to shoot it down to the ground. The sharp arrow directly pierced through its body, stabbing into the trunk of a tree 10 meters away from it. Good! Charlotte smiled. He walked over and carried the prey on his shoulder, and then he went to pick up the arrow that was shot. He only polished 10 arrows in total, and he didn't want to waste them. Roar! A loud roar suddenly came from the depths of the forest. This sound scared Charlotte. 1 second later, he carried the prey and ran back. That was the roar of the blue dragon. He could recognize this sound even if it turned into ashes. He knew that the guy didn't die from the fall, but he didn't expect it to be active in this forest so soon. This place was not far from Peace Village. If it found Peace Village, it would be a piece of cake for it to destroy Peace Village. Fortunately, it only heard the roar of the blue dragon. It didn't find him, and it didn't chase after him. Charlotte carried the prey directly to the forest where Lin Qing lived. From afar, he saw Lin Qing chopping firewood in the yard, and there were a few iron pots made of stones next to her. It seemed that she was ready to make a fire to cook breakfast. Charlotte carried the prey and walked over. He saw that the pot was half filled with water and a few slices of tomatoes. Lin Qing stopped chopping firewood and raised her hand to wipe the sweat on her forehead. Then she saw Charlotte and the prey that Charlotte carried on his shoulder. She was stunned for a moment. "You?" Charlotte walked over and threw the prey on the ground with a smile on his face. "Good morning, Dr. Lin. I brought you meat. I promised you, and I will do it. This. I don't need so much." Lin Qing recovered. "If you can't finish it, you can marinate it," Charlotte said. "I can't finish it. This horned pig is too big. You can bring some back for Li and I," Lin Qing said, "because it is very dangerous to go hunting in the forest. The hunters in the village will only go out once every half a month. Usually they are preparing. She rarely gets to eat meat. You can bring some back for her." "Okay, then I will divide it. Half for you, half for Li and I. When you finish eating, let me know. I will go hunt again." Charlotte took the knife that Lin Qing used to cut tomatoes and began to divide the prey. After one cut, the blade was bent, but the skin of the horned pig was still intact. There was only a cut mark. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. "What kind of pig did you say?" Chapter 1332. My knife. Lin Qing looked at the curled knife in Charlotte's hand and looked like she was about to die from heartache. Charlotte said, "It's fine, I'll make you a knife that can cut iron later. Tell me, what kind of pig is this?" "A horned pig, I just told you about it," Lin Qing said. She was still feeling sorry for her knife. "I know you said it before, what I mean is, why is its skin so tough?" Charlotte said. Lin Qing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "You killed it, don't tell me you don't know how tough its skin is?" Charlotte pointed at the metal bow on his shoulder. "I made a bow last night and killed it with one arrow. I didn't know its skin was so thick." Lin Qing smiled bitterly. You don't even know the situation in the forest and you dare to go hunting. You're still a person who isn't afraid of anything. Let me tell you, for a horned pig like this, our hunters would need to use at least 10 bullets to kill it. But once the bullets hurt it, it will rush over and attack the hunters, so hunting a horned pig is actually a very dangerous thing to do. Last month, there was a hunter who died under a horned pig's ram. Don't you know about this? Charlotte shook his head. Moreover, he didn't think that hunting in the forest was a dangerous thing to do. He could kill this horned pig with one arrow, so what was so dangerous about it? "Can you let me see your bow?" Lin Qing finally stopped looking at her broken knife. Charlotte took off the self-made metal bow and handed it to Lin Qing. Lin Qing tried to pull it, but the bow didn't move at all. She used all of her strength to try to draw the bow, but her face turned red and she still couldn't draw the bow. "What do you want to do with the bow?" Charlotte said with a smile. He stared at Lin Qing's swollen chest. His eyes were hot, and the saliva in his mouth was clearly much more than when he came. That was for those who were hungry. Lin Qing had already adapted to Charlotte's lecherous gaze. She handed the ugly metal bow back to Charlotte and said discouragingly, "If your bow can kill a horned boar with one arrow, I also want to give it a try. In that case, I won't have to trouble you." Charlotte said with a smile, "You definitely can't. Takes a lot of strength to draw this bow. A woman like you doesn't have that kind of strength. Don't think too much about it. You won't lose anything by trading with me. Pull it out for me to see." Lin Qing looked a little unconvinced. "If I pull it open, you can milk me, okay?" Charlotte's milkworm was about to crawl out of his throat again. Lin Qing rolled her eyes at Charlotte again. "Can you not say the word milking? I don't like it. If you want it in the future, just tell me you'll get me something to drink." Charlotte nodded his head, and then he grabbed the place on the bowstring that was wrapped in cloth to protect his fingers. He pulled with all his strength, and the metal bow suddenly became fully drawn in his hand. Lin Qing's mouth opened wide and she looked stunned. She couldn't believe that this refined and handsome man in front of her actually had such terrifying strength. A strange thought appeared in her mind. Was his strength related to his liking to drink milk? Charlotte put the metal bow back on his shoulder, and then he took out a metal arrow from the quiver. "You go and get me something to drink. I'll use this arrow to split this pig apart." Lin Qing finally came back to her senses. She nodded her head and then entered the room. When Charlotte looked over, the shabby wooden door had already closed. He really wanted to see how this easily shy woman would milk, but he couldn't see at all. The sound of a baby crying came from the room. Lin Qing's child woke up. "Don't cry. This isn't for you. This is for your Uncle Xia." It was Lin Qing's voice, and then she said in a small voice, "Such a big man still likes to drink milk." Seriously. Charlotte was speechless. When Lin Qing came out with half a bowl of milk, Charlotte had already dismembered a horned boar. The edge of the arrow was sharper than a knife, and it could easily cut through the skin and muscles of the horned boar. He left half of the horned boar for Lin Qing, and after drinking Lin Qing's small bowl of milk, he carried the remaining half of the horned boar back to Li Ni's house. Li Ni had already woken up, and she had even made breakfast. When she saw Charlotte carrying half of the horned boar back, she said in surprise, You really went hunting in the forest? It's just a hunt. Is it worth making such a fuss over nothing?" Charlotte carried half of the horned boar into the kitchen, but he didn't eat the breakfast Li Ni made. "Aren't you going to eat some?" Li Ni said. Charlotte said, "I ate a little at Dr. Lin's house, and then I won't eat." Li Ni's small mouth slightly pouted. "If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. You can cook for yourself in the future." Charlotte smiled bitterly, not knowing how to explain it. He felt full after drinking half a bowl of milk, and didn't want to eat breakfast anymore. But he couldn't tell Li Ni this kind of thing. He said, "I'm going to the utility room." Li Ni ignored Charlotte. Charlotte walked out of the kitchen towards the utility room, and before he reached the door, a female warrior rushed in. Charlotte recognized her. She was the first female warrior to throw down her gun last night, and Li Ni called her Tigress. Tigress rushed into the yard, and said with an anxious expression, "Where's the village chief?" Charlotte said, "He's eating breakfast in the kitchen." "Why are you so flustered? What happened?" Tigress didn't answer Charlotte's question, and took large strides towards the kitchen. At this time, Li Ni walked out with a bowl. "Tigress, why are you so flustered? What happened?" Tigress didn't even have time to take a breath. "Village chief, not good. Our people found people from the stubborn stone tribe near the boundary line. There are dozens of them, fully armed, and some are wearing bulletproof vests. I'm afraid Huang Zhan is going to attack us." Li Ni suddenly frowned. "Attack us in broad daylight?" Tigress said, "With their weapons and equipment, what's the difference between attacking in broad daylight and at night? We can't win against them at all. I'll go and see right away. You go and call all the warriors in the village, and let them gather at the boundary line." Li Ni said. "Okay, I'll go right away." Tigress turned and ran out. Li Ni looked at Charlotte. "Teacher Xia, come with me. We need your help." Charlotte said with a smile, "Then will you still cook for me in the future?" "You cook." Li Ni's expression seemed to be angry at Charlotte, but there was a trace of a smile at the corner of her mouth, and it was unknown whether she was angry or happy. 10 minutes later, 20 warhorses rushed out of Ping An village and galloped to the west of the village. Lin Qing's home was in the west of the village. When passing by the woods, Charlotte saw Lin Qing standing in the woods. He waved to Lin Qing. Lin Qing pretended not to see. Charlotte asked for a snub, and secretly said in his heart, "It's just a greeting, is there a need to be so evasive? If you greet me, will others say that you have an improper relationship with me? Will you get pregnant if you greet me? Really?" Li Ni slowed down the speed of her horse and ran side by side with Charlotte's warhorse. She said mischievously, "People don't want to talk to you, don't ask for a snub in the future." Charlotte smiled embarrassedly. If it wasn't because Lin Qing had milk, he would be too lazy to get close to her. "Your bow is so ugly, using steel rope as the bowstring, can it be used?" Li Ni finally noticed Charlotte's metal bow. Charlotte said, "Of course it can be used, that horned boar was killed by me with this bow." "I don't believe it," Li Ni said. Charlotte smiled. Then you can see it on the battlefield, home? He squeezed the horse's belly and urged it to gallop. The warhorse he was riding was Black Tiger. It was the strongest and fastest warhorse among all the warhorses. With this blow, the warhorse under him quickly rushed to the front of the team. On the battlefield, he was always at the front, so it was on Earth, and so it was in the New World. The warhorse galloped, and the road extended forward. In the distance, the entrance of a valley came into sight, and the road extended into the valley, with no end in sight. There was a wooden house at the entrance of the valley, and a wooden fence in the middle of the road, but no one could see there. Teacher Xia, we're here. Li and I finally caught up with Charlotte. Why are you running so fast? If the other side has a sniper, you'll be in danger. Charlotte looked in the direction of the valley. In front of me, no one can call themselves a sniper. While Li and I was still figuring out the meaning of this sentence, Charlotte had already jumped off the horse and strode to the wooden house by the road. Before he got close to the wooden house, Charlotte smelled a faint smell of blood. Although he couldn't see the situation in the wooden house with his X-ray vision, he had already guessed the situation in the house with his experience. Pushing open the door of the wooden house, a strong smell of blood rushed out. The scene in the house made Charlotte and the people who followed him feel nauseous. What lay on the ground was not a complete corpse, but a dismembered corpse. The hands and feet of a soldier from Peace Village were cut off while he was still alive, and placed on the left and right sides of the corpse. The poor soldier's head was chopped off, pierced by a metal spear, and stabbed into the wall. What was even more hateful was that the murderer also cut open his stomach, dug out his intestines and internal organs, and casually threw them on the ground. On the wall of the wooden house, there was a message written with the blood of the dead. People of Peace Village, you have 2 hours to surrender, or the village will be slaughtered. This was not a simple killing, this was spreading fear. Damn it! Li and I slammed her fist into the wooden wall. Her delicate fist was scratched, and blood flowed out, but she did not seem to feel any pain. Everyone's heart was burning with anger. Let's go to the stubborn Stone tribe. Tigress roared, revenge for little Stone. He's only 18 years old. An old soldier choked. Yesterday we were talking about women, he asked me. Hey. He's so young, how could those people do it? The anger spread in the wooden house, and it could erupt like a volcano at any time. Xiaolei, on the other hand, was the only one who was sober and calm. Just as the soldiers of Ping An village were burning with rage, he suddenly remembered something and roared, "Get out of here!" Chapter 1333. Teacher Xia, what did you find? Li and I looked at Charlotte nervously. Charlotte did not explain. He took Li Ni's hand and ran out of the door. Although the soldiers of Pingon village did not know what happened, Charlotte had established an absolute prestige in their hearts. When Charlotte said to leave, they instinctively prepared. When Charlotte took Li and I and ran out, they also ran out. When the soldiers of Pingon village just ran out of the cabin, there was a loud bang behind the cabin. The violent explosion suddenly blew the cabin into pieces. If it had been a few seconds later, everyone in the cabin would have been killed. At the moment before the explosion, Charlotte threw Li and I to the ground and pressed her to the ground. The shock wave of the explosion roared over his back, and the hot wave almost burned his clothes. The shock wave of the explosion disappeared, and Charlotte let go of Li and I. He climbed up from Li Ni's body and looked at the flattened cabin with lingering fear. How did you find out? Li Ni's face was pale, and her voice was trembling. She was obviously frightened. Charlotte said, I just heard a sizzling sound. That was the sound of the ignition fuse. He walked to the back of the cabin. Since there was the sound of the ignition fuse, it meant that someone had ignited the fuse. Behind the cabin was a hillside, and on the hillside there were dense trees. Charlotte took the Avenger 1000 in his hand and carefully walked to the hillside behind the cabin. Stepping over the ruins of the cabin, he soon found the trace of the ignition fuse left on the ground. The linear trace extended to the woods on the hillside, but he could not see anything in the woods. Leonai and the soldiers of Pingon village followed. "There is a fuse," Leonai said angrily. "It must be those guys from the stubborn stone tribe. They want to kill us." "Kill them!" the soldiers of Pingon village roared angrily. "Back off!" Charlotte suddenly roared and then quickly retreated. The soldiers of Pingon village followed Charlotte and retreated in the direction of Pingon village. At this time, a group of armed men rushed out from the hillside on both sides of the road. There were more than 50 of them. These armed men were very well equipped, and some of them were wearing bulletproof vests. They had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers and equipment. When these armed men of the stubborn stone tribe appeared, the situation of Pingon village was suddenly not enough. The soldiers of Pingon village did not dare to expose themselves to the enemy's fire. When the armed men of the stubborn stone tribe appeared, they hid in the stones on both sides of the road. They pointed their guns at the armed men, but they did not dare to shoot. Xiale also hid behind a rock on the right side of the road. His gaze locked on to the leader. The guy was wearing a black protective suit, which looked like a protective armor made of plastic and metal. This black protective armor not only covered his body, but it also protected his head was also protected. Although he could not see the guy's face, Charlotte knew that he was Huang Zhan. "People of Pingon village, listen up. Put down your weapons and surrender to us. Otherwise, we will kill you and everyone in your village," the man in the black armor shouted loudly. His voice was indeed Huang Zhan's voice. He was Huang Zhan. "Huang Zhan, get out of here!" Leonai shouted to Huang Zhan, "Otherwise, we will not be polite." "Ah!" Huang Zhan laughed loudly. Bang! With a gunshot, a bullet flew out of the Avenger 1000's muzzle. There was almost no time interval. The bullet flew out of the muzzle and hit Huang Zhan's head in an instant. Ding! The sound of metal colliding was heard. Huang Zhan's body shook, but he did not fall. His protective armor protected his head from being hit by the Avenger's 1000 bullet. The person who fired the shot was Charlotte. If he wanted to kill, he would kill. He did not want to talk nonsense with Huang Zhan and the people of the stubborn stone tribe. The people of the stubborn stone tribe first killed a small warrior of Pingon village, then buried explosives behind the wooden house to kill the people of Pingon village. With such a character, why would he talk nonsense with Huang Zhan and the people of the stubborn stone tribe? Charlotte's idea was to kill the leader first to catch the bandit. But he did not expect that even the bullets of the Avenger 1000 could not penetrate Huang Zhan's protective armor. Even a sniper rifle could not kill Huang Zhan, not to mention the shabby guns of the soldiers of Pingon village. Now, it seemed that even though Huang Zhan knew that he was still alive, he still dared to bring people here. Furthermore, he appeared in public. He was relying on the black protective armor on his body. He came prepared. "Don't shoot," Leonai, who was lying beside Charlotte, said nervously. "He is wearing the light armor of the Blue Moon people. Our bullets are useless." "The Blue Moon people's light armor?" Xia Lei's brows furrowed. Fortunately, Huang Zhan was the only one who had such a set of armor. None of the others had one. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to fight this battle. At this moment, the armed men of the stubborn stone tribe also opened fire. Dozens of guns opened fire one after another, and bullets flew like raindrops. For a moment, the sound of gunfire was deafening, the bullets whistled, and the stone fragments flew everywhere. The powerful firepower suppressed the warriors of Pingon village, and they did not dare to show their heads. Huang Zhan raised one hand and the gunfire suddenly stopped. Huang Zhan then waved his hand forward. The 50 armed men of the stubborn stone tribe surrounded them from both sides. The armed men wearing bulletproof vests walked at the front. Some of them even used metal plates more than 1 meter high as shields to prevent the people of Pingon village from suddenly fighting back. Leonai, surrender. Come with me to the stubborn stone tribe. I will treat you well. Don't be fooled by my fierce appearance, I am very gentle to women. Ha ha! Huang Zhan laughed. The insulted Li Ni wanted to get up, but Charlotte pressed her down. Let go of me, I want to kill him. Li Ni struggled with Charlotte holding her neck. Charlotte suddenly let go of her, but before she could get up, he slapped Li Ni's perky butt. With a crisp sound, a beautiful ripple appeared on her plump and perky buttocks. You! Li Ni was stunned. It was strange, the anger in her heart was extinguished by Charlotte's slap. She only felt shame and anger, and something else that she did not understand. Charlotte realized that he had lost control. He had a habit of hitting women's butts, and when a woman did not listen to him, he could not help but slap them. But the ones he hit were his women, and those who were hit by him would not argue with him. But Li Ni was not his woman. How could he spank Li Ni's butt? And in front of so many soldiers of Peace Village. Sure enough, his slap attracted the attention of most of the soldiers in Pingon Village, and those soldiers also looked at him with strange eyes. Xia Lei was embarrassed, but he put on a serious face. Calm down. He's wearing the armor of the Blue Moon people. Your gun won't be able to kill him. They will rush here soon and then we will die. Li Ni said angrily. Calm down, Charlotte said, just leave it to me. Li Ni did not know why, but when she heard him say that, she calmed down, and her heart was not as nervous and scared as before. She also found that staying by this man's side, even if the sky fell, she would not be afraid. Was this the sense of security that most women wanted? She did not know, but her heart was in a mess. Li Ni, I will give you one last chance. Huang Zhan's voice came, hand over that guy, and I will let your people go. That guy was obviously referring to Charlotte. The eyes of the soldiers of Peace Village were focused on Charlotte and Li Ni, and their eyes were very complicated. They seemed to be faced with the choice that they faced in the garbage dump last night. That time they chose to betray. What about this time? Think about your children and loved ones. They need your protection. Hand over that sharpshooter, and I will let you go. Using his face in exchange for all of your lives, this is a very good deal. Huang Zhan's voice came. His words had affected some of the soldiers of Peace Village. They looked a little hesitant, which showed that they were struggling in their hearts. Li Ni looked at Charlotte. Don't worry, we will not betray you. I don't trust that guy at all. His plan is to kill you first, then kill us. If we hand you over, we will die faster. Chapter 1334. The metal arrow drew a silver trajectory in the air, broke through the space in an instant, and pierced Huang Zhan's chest. Puff! The metal arrow penetrated Huang Zhan's armor, entered his chest, and came out from his back. Huang Zhan's body flew several meters away before falling to the ground. Huang Zhan's protective armor and bulletproof vest were actually based on the same principle. It could better defend against bullets, and even bullets from sniper rifles couldn't do anything to it. However, it couldn't defend against piercing attacks from knives or arrows. After all, the bullet head was oval and had a relatively large surface area, while the tip of the knife and the arrowhead of the arrow were very sharp and had a very small surface area. It could not be defended at all. Charlotte's self-made metal bow could kill a horned pig with one arrow, let alone Huang Zhan, who was wearing such a suit of armor. After the arrow hit its target, Charlotte suddenly reached out and hugged Li Ni, throwing her to the ground. This was the second time he had thrown Li Ni to the ground, and Li Ni seemed to have gotten used to the feeling of being pressed down by him. The people of the Hardstone tribe finally reacted. Bang bang bang, gunshots rang out again. Bullets whizzed over their heads, and the stone fragments flew like shrapnel, hitting people's skin and causing a burning pain. Chief! Chief! The people of the Hardstone tribe called out to Huang Zhan, but Huang Zhan did not respond at all. Chief is dead. Someone shouted. Kill them! Avenge the chief! Someone roared. The people of the Hardstone tribe madly charged toward the front line of Peace Village. The man with the metal shield rushed to the front, and the rest of the people hid behind him, shooting and advancing. In their imagination, although Charlotte's metal bow had a great power that could penetrate armor, there was no way he could shoot through the metal shield. Therefore, in their opinion, although Huang Zhan was killed, they could still kill Charlotte and the people of Peace Village. And the person who killed Charlotte was the most likely person to replace Huang Zhan as the new leader of the Hardstone tribe. The situation in Peace Village was terrible. They did not get a chance to breathe after Charlotte killed Huang Zhan. On the contrary, dozens of members of the Hardstone tribe rushed over crazily. The pressure they faced to survive was much greater than before. Several soldiers from the Village of Peace tried to fight back, but as soon as they showed their heads, they were suppressed by the enemy's firepower. They couldn't even raise their heads. "Village chief, run quickly, we'll cover you!" Hunyo roared. Just as Li and I was about to speak, Charlotte had already grabbed the Avenger 1000 beside him. Without even looking, he aimed the gun at the side of the rock and fired. With this gunshot, an armed member of the Hardstone tribe holding a metal shield fell to the ground. The bullet fired from the Avenger 1000 hit his leg. The bullet shattered his calf bone, and his body lost balance and fell to the ground. Bang! Another gunshot rang out. The moment he fell to the ground, a bullet flew over and instantly blew up his head. Li and I looked at Charlotte, dumbfounded. She could not understand how Charlotte could shoot the target so accurately without even looking. Charlotte glared at her. "Why are you looking at me? Tell your people to shoot." Li and I came back to her senses and shouted, "Open fire! Kill them!" The soldiers of Peace Village seemed to have woken up from their sleep. They raised their guns out of cover and fired at the people of the Hardstone tribe. The people of the Hardstone tribe lost the cover of the shield-bearers and were immediately under the fire of the soldiers of Peace Village. Although they were well equipped, they had no cover. When the soldiers of Peace Village returned fire, several of them were knocked down in the blink of an eye. However, those who were knocked down quickly regained their ability to move because they were wearing bulletproof vests. The soldiers of Peace Village shot them down, but could not kill them. They lay on the ground and fired, suppressing the line of the soldiers of Peace Village. The armed men of the Hardstone tribe behind them also followed suit. They lay on the ground and fired. For a moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. Bullets flew over their heads, but no one could do anything to the other. But this stalemate was extremely disadvantageous for the soldiers of Peace Village, because their ammunition could not be compared with that of the armed men of the Hardstone tribe. Once they ran out of ammunition, they would probably have to use their fists and cold weapons to fight against the armed men of the Hardstone tribe. Behind a stone, Charlotte's ears twitched. Then, he adjusted the muzzle of the Avenger 1000 about 1 centimeter in one direction. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and a member of the royal tribe wearing a bulletproof vest had his head burst open the moment the gunshot rang out. Blood and brains splattered everywhere. The next second, Charlotte adjusted the muzzle a few millimeters and fired a second shot. Without any suspense, another armed man of the Hardstone tribe lying on the ground was shot in the head. "Teacher Xia Yu." Li and I stared at Charlotte as if she was looking at a monster. "What do you want to say?" Charlotte said faintly. Even in such a hail of bullets, there was not a trace of nervousness on his face. He was so relaxed as if he was drinking afternoon tea. "You didn't even look at them, how could you?" Li Ni's words were interrupted by a gunshot. Right under her nose, Charlotte killed the third target in the same way. Moreover, Charlotte fired the gun while looking at her. It gave her the feeling that Charlotte's body was full of eyes. Charlotte did not look at the target's position, but his ears were able to determine the exact position of the target from the gunshot. His brain accurately calculated the target's exact position and even the exact distance based on the sound his ears heard. Therefore, although he did not use his eyes to see, his ears could replace his eyes and provide the needed information to his brain. Then, his brain would give instructions to his body based on this information to lock on to the target and then kill the target. It was still the same reason. The blue moon in the sky had created an energy field that covered the entire new world, interfering with and limiting the power of the brand in his body. However, his body was still a body that had evolved ahead of time, and the functions of each organ far exceeded that of a normal person. Take his eyes, for example. Although he couldn't see through or scan an object, he could still see very far and very clearly. He could even see clearly in a dark environment. His ears also had a hearing that was more than 10 times that of a normal person. He could hear very subtle sounds, and he could also lock on to a sound that he needed to lock on to in a complex sound environment and exclude other sounds. His brain was still in a transcendent state, and he could make corresponding calculations based on the sounds he heard with his ears, so that he could adjust the muzzle without looking at the target and kill the target with a blind shot. Leonai suddenly remembered what Charlotte had said just now. "No one can claim to be a sniper in front of me." When she heard Charlotte say this, she more or less felt that Charlotte was a little arrogant, but now she realized that Charlotte was definitely not arrogant, but confident. Quietly, the man in front of her aroused her even more intense curiosity. She couldn't help but wonder, what kind of story did this mysterious man have? Bang, bang, bang. The gunfight was still going on. However, the ones who had the absolute advantage were not the armed men of the Hardstone tribe, who had the advantage in numbers, but the warriors of Peace Village, who were outnumbered and equipped. With the help of Charlotte, they beat the armed men of the Hardstone tribe to the point where they could not even lift their heads. In particular, Charlotte's marksmanship made them full of confidence in their victory, because every time Charlotte fired a shot, there was bound to be a death of an armed man of the Hardstone tribe. Not a single shot was missed. Bang! The Avenger 1000 in Charlotte's hand made another gunshot, and the last armed man of the Hardstone tribe wearing a bulletproof vest was shot in the head. The Avenger 1000 was also empty, and he had no spare ammunition on him. At this moment, the armed men of the Hardstone tribe suddenly got up, turned around, and fled into the forest on both sides of the road. They had been scared out of their wits by Charlotte, and they had no idea that Charlotte's Avenger 1000 was out of bullets, but they knew that they absolutely did not want to be the next target to be shot in the head for no reason. Huang Zhan was dead, and the few leaders wearing bulletproof vests were also killed one by one. The remaining people had already lost their leader, and their will to fight had long since disappeared. "They're escaping, kill them!" Hunyo was the first to rush out of cover, and fired at the fleeing armed men of the Hardstone tribe. The warriors of Peace Sun Village rushed out of cover and fired at the armed men of the Hardstone tribe. Those who ran at the front fell into the forest, and those who ran at the back were hit by bullets and fell to the ground. The army was defeated like a landslide, and the menacing armed men of the Hardstone tribe became stray dogs. After leaving behind a ground of corpses, they disappeared into the dense forest. "We've won! We've won!" The warriors of Peace Village yelled excitedly. Leonai was still looking at Charlotte. She did not realize that at this moment, the way she looked at Charlotte was the same way Charlotte looked at her breasts in the past, hot and spicy. Charlotte walked towards the place where Huang Zhan had fallen. Huang Zhan lay on the ground, and the blood that seeped out from his body dyed the ground red. His eyes looked at the sky and did not move, but from his eyes, one could still see his shock and unwillingness, as well as his fear of death. But all of this could not change anything. The arrow that Charlotte shot had hit his heart, and the moment the arrow hit him, he died. He thought that he could stand in front of Charlotte without fear after wearing the light armor of the Blue Moon people, but he never thought that Charlotte would shoot him to death with a bow and arrow. If he was given another chance, he would not appear here at all. He would not even think of taking revenge on Charlotte. But it was all too late. Even if there was medicine for regret in this world, he could not take it any more. Charlotte carefully pulled the metal arrow out of Huang Zhan's body, and then he took off the black light armor that Huang Zhan was wearing. The warriors of Peace Village also began to search the dead, armed men of the Hard Stone tribe. The guns, bulletproof vests, ammunition, and even the clothes and shoes that the armed men were wearing were all their trophies. They would not miss a single one of them. So, the corpses that they had searched were all naked, and not even their underwear was left behind. Lianai did not search for the trophies. For her, Charlotte was the best trophies. She stood next to Charlotte and looked at him. "Chief, can I keep this armor?" Charlotte asked. Lianai said, "Of course you can. All these years, we have been exploited and suppressed by the Hard Stone tribe. This is the first time we have beaten them. Without your help, we would not have been able to beat them. You helped us win the most important battle, so you can have whatever you want." Charlotte smiled. "Then I will take this armor. It looks good." Li Ni's voice became smaller, and she looked a little strange. "Other than this armor, is there anything else you want?" "No, I just want this armor. The rest of the trophies are yours," Charlotte said. He did not see a hint of disappointment in Li Ni's eyes. Chapter 1335. The armed men of the Hardstone tribe had escaped, and the warriors of Peace Village did not chase after them. They also understood the principle of not chasing a cornered enemy. The warriors of Peace Village piled up all the spoils of war in one place. There were a total of 32 guns, hundreds of bullets, and 5 bulletproof vests. Needless to say, clothes and shoes were taken out as much as they could. In short, all the corpses on the ground had become naked corpses. The way they cleaned up the battlefield made Charlotte, who came from another world, feel a little speechless. The most valuable spoils of war were, of course, the light armor of the Blue Moon people that Huang Zhan was wearing. It was said that it could be exchanged for 100 young and beautiful women on the black market. Although some people were jealous of such spoils of war, no one objected to Charlotte taking it. In fact, they all knew that if it were not for Charlotte's amazing marksmanship and the arrow that killed Huang Zhan, they would have been the ones lying on the ground, not the armed men of the Hardstone tribe. Therefore, in their opinion, it was reasonable for Xia Lazy to take all the spoils of war, let alone that set of battle armor. They couldn't say anything about it. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. The strong could obtain everything with their fists, while the weak could only survive by relying on the strong. Now, for the people of Peace Village, Charlotte was no longer an unknown person, but their guardian. Charlotte put on the light armor that he had taken from Huang Zhan's body. Huang Zhan was about the same size as him, so the armor was just right for him. It was just that there was an extra hole in the chest and back, which looked weird. However, Xia Lei didn't care. His purpose for wanting this set of armor was very simple. In this dog-eat-dog world, he couldn't guarantee that no one would shoot him from behind. Having such a set of armor was better than not having it at all. After putting on the battle armor, Xia Lei used his hand to knock on the armor. He discovered that although the armor was very light, weighing no more than 20 kilograms, when he knocked on it, it still made a metallic sound. He observed it with his naked eyes, but he could not tell what material was used to make it. The Blue Moon people's material science was very advanced. He was becoming more and more certain of this. "Mr. Xia, can I have a look at your bow?" A sturdy warrior from the Peace Village asked Xia Lei. He had a sturdy build and looked like a bear. Charlotte smiled. "No problem." He handed the metal bow to the soldier from Pingon Village. "Wu Da, can you pull it open?" Hunyo said. The person who was addressed as Wu Da had a face full of confidence. "Of course there's no problem. If I draw Teacher Xia's bow, you'll kiss me. Do you dare to bet?" "Go to hell." Hunyo blushed. "If you can't pull it open, then bark like a dog." "All right, it's a deal." Wu Da took a step forward, lowered his waist, and drew his bow. Lianai also looked at Wuda, who was trying to pull the metal bow with interest. She also wanted to know if Wuda, the strongest person in Pingon village, could pull Charlotte's bow. "Hey! Open!" Wuda shouted. He used all his strength to pull Charlotte's bow. The metal bow was pulled open a little, but only a little. All the soldiers of Pingon village were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that the strongest soldier in Pingon village couldn't even pull Charlotte's bow, and Charlotte used that bow to kill Huangzhan, who was wearing protective armor. "Open, ah!" Wuda roared. This time, he used all his strength. His dark face was flushed because of the strength, but even so, he still couldn't pull Charlotte's bow. "Ha ha ha!" Hunyo laughed and said, "Wuda, quickly bark like a dog." Wuda handed the metal bow to Charlotte in disappointment. "Ms. Xia, I really don't know how you pulled this bow. I can't do it at all." Charlotte smiled and didn't say anything. He grabbed the back of the bow with one hand and pulled the bowstring with the other, then casually pulled it back. The metal bow made a crisp sound under his hand. In the blink of an eye, it was pulled back to full strength. This time, it was more than 1,000 pounds of strength. A large group of soldiers of Pingon village stared at Charlotte, dumbfounded. At this moment, their eyes were filled with awe. Charlotte released his hand, and the metal bow made a ping sound. Although no arrow was shot, Lianai, who was standing in front of the bow, was still messed up by the force of the bowstring. She was also scared, and subconsciously took a step back. "Sorry, did I hurt you?" Charlotte said with concern, and moved closer to Lianai to see if there were any wounds on her face. "No, I'm fine." Lianai was a little flustered, and she avoided Charlotte's eyes. "Ms. Xia, quickly blow on our village chief, it'll be fine," Hunyo said. "The village chief is being spanked," someone suddenly said. "Ha ha ha!" A lot of people laughed, and the atmosphere was happy. Lini's face turned red, and she looked so shy that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Charlotte said awkwardly, "Don't talk nonsense, there's no such thing." "We're not talking nonsense, I saw it with my own eyes." "Yes, I saw it too." "That." Charlotte cleverly changed the topic. "Wuda, you lost the bet, quickly bark like a dog. A man should keep his word, quickly, quickly." "I'll bark." Wuda hesitated and suddenly shouted, "Woof, woof, 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 woof." "Ha ha ha!" The soldiers of Pingon village burst into laughter again. After experiencing a battle of life and death, Charlotte had already subtly integrated into their team. After playing for a while, the soldiers of Pingon village went to the ruins of the small wooden house to look for the body of the young soldier. They collected the body parts and buried them in a place, and set up a wooden board in front of the grave, and then wrote the name of the young soldier on the board. Just when the soldiers of Pingon village were burying the young soldier, he found some things on Huangzhan's body: a bunch of keys, a very sharp military knife, a letter, and a black stone. Charlotte wanted to throw the keys away, but he saw that there was a strangely shaped big key on the keychain. He suspected that it was the key to the safe, so he kept the key. Huangzhan had been in charge of the Wancher tribe for many years, so he might have some good things. If there was a chance, he would go to the Wancher tribe to take a look and open Huangzhan's safe. Charlotte put away the keychain and the military knife. Ever since he came to this world, he had been lacking a good knife. Huangzhan's military knife was made of alloy, which was not only sharp, but also strong enough, so it was suitable for him. After putting away the key and the military knife, only the letter and the black stone were left. Charlotte opened the envelope and took out the letter inside. The content of the letter was, "Brother Huangzhan, when will you deliver the order of 100 women? I have given you the armor of the Blue Moon people in advance, so don't break your promise. Otherwise you know what the consequences will be." There was no signature on the bottom right corner of the letter, but there was a cartoon picture of a cat. "What is this?" Charlotte asked Lianai with the letter in his hand. Lianai saw the content of the letter, and when her eyes moved to the cartoon cat picture on the bottom right corner of the letter, her expression suddenly changed. That is the emblem of the horny cat. You look scared, Charlotte said curiously. What is the background of this horny cat? Leonai said, no one knows his name, but everyone in Area 51 knows what he does. He is a middleman who specializes in the business of human heads. He buys people from armed forces everywhere and then sells them to the Blue Moon people who have special needs. The heads he buys are mostly young and beautiful women and children. Some Blue Moon people with status don't want to come down to hunt, so they buy them with equipment and Blue Moon currency, just like buying food in the market. Xia Lei immediately frowned. There's actually such a scum? Humans are kept like chickens and ducks by the Blue Moon people on this planet, and he is doing such a business. He is simply heartless. Is there no one who can kill him? You said something about the Resistance Army. Does the Resistance Army tolerate the existence of people like him? Leonai smiled bitterly. There is more than one middleman like the horny cat. We humans are like this. For our own interests, we can sell everything, including our own soul and conscience. The Resistance Army did kill some middlemen, but this horny cat is very cunning. He doesn't have a fixed residence, and he has his own team of bodyguards, all equipped with Blue Moon people's equipment. It will take a lot of effort to kill him, so the Resistance Army is powerless against a large middleman like the horny cat. If I meet him, I will definitely kill him, Charlotte said. Leonai said, no matter what you do, I will support you and be with you. Okay. Charlotte smiled, and his eyes moved to the black stone. Leonai looked at Charlotte, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. Her smile looked very strange, as if she had done something bad without being discovered. Charlotte did not notice the change in Leonie's expression at all. When his eyes moved to the black stone, he was immediately attracted. The stone was not big, only a little bigger than a thumb, but he could feel a powerful energy from it. He felt a sense of familiarity from the energy contained in the stone, and his mind could not help but think of the mysterious and great stone city. Although he could not be sure that this stone was a fragment of the stone city, he was sure that this stone was the kind of rock that was used to build the stone city, because the energy contained in it was the same energy that was contained in the stone city. This is... Charlotte's eyes moved to Leonie's face again. What kind of stone is this? Leonai looked at it carefully. I don't know. You've never seen it before? Charlotte asked again. Leonai shook her head. I've never seen it before. It's just a stone. Is it that important to you? Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, yes, it's very important to me. It seems that I have to go to the Hardstone tribe. Leonai said in surprise. You want to go to the Hardstone tribe? They will kill you. Charlotte smiled. I have my ways. Don't worry, I'm a tough person. I won't die easily. But they have a lot of people. You can't go, Leonai said, as if she was afraid that Charlotte would leave now. Charlotte still had a relaxed smile on his face. Didn't you just say that you will support me no matter what I do and will be with me? Have you changed your mind so quickly? Leonai wanted to say something but stopped. She regretted saying those words. She secretly clicked her tongue in her heart and said, what did I mean by saying those words? You idiot, can't you tell? I won't change my mind. I need your help. Are you willing to help me? Charlotte looked at Leonai. Leonai hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Chapter 1336. The curtain of night fell. The woods were quiet. The blue moonlight shone on the ground. Its luster made the world seem unreal. Under the moonlight, Lin Qing's back was facing Charlotte. She was holding a white milk in her hand, gently squeezing it. Drops of white milk dripped into a bowl. Her face was red as if she had drunk a lot of wine. Charlotte stood behind Lin Qing. His back was facing her, waiting for his food. His tongue kept licking his lips, The milk worms were about to climb out of his throat. Done. Lin Qing put down her clothes, tidied up a little bit, then turned around and handed a small bowl of milk to Charlotte. Charlotte turned around, his throat made a gulp sound, then he couldn't wait to take the bowl and drink. Lin Qing laughed out loud. You're already a grown man, but you're still so hungry for milk, it's really strange. She actually wanted to say abnormal, but in the end she changed it to strange. Charlotte had already drunk Lin Qing's milk. He was using his tongue to dry the bottom of the bowl. How could he talk? Lin Qing shook her head. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Charlotte finally licked the remaining milk from the bottom of the bowl into his mouth. He handed the clean bowl back to Lin Qing. What did you just say? I said that you're really strange. Lin Qing rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Charlotte smiled. I'm normal, just suffering from milk cravings. Lin Qing's face blushed again. I don't want to talk about this anymore. After a pause, she said, I heard that you used your bow to kill Huang Zhan, thank you. Charlotte was a little surprised. Thank me for what? Lin Qing said, Huang Zhan is a beast. My father and I lived in the village, were exploited by him. He did whatever he wanted to do. He did all kinds of bad things. Once, because my father didn't have any medicine to cure one of his subordinates, he broke one of his ribs. You killed him, this is a good thing, thank you. Charlotte smiled. Go back to rest, I should go back. Lin Qing's lips slightly moved, but she didn't say anything. As she watched Charlotte leave, there was a slight sense of loss in her heart. Charlotte actually knew that she wanted to chat with him for a while, and he also liked to chat with this gentlewoman, but when he thought of the standard he set for himself, he made the decision to leave. In the new world, there was no need to be lenient. Relationships between men and women must be handled properly. Walking out of the woods, Lin Qing's cabin disappeared behind him. The woman who was as gentle as water was just a passerby in his life. They had crossed paths, but there would be no story between them. Charlotte stopped in his tracks. Come out. Stop hiding. I know you're there. Rustling sounds came from the edge of the forest. Then, Li and I walked out from the edge of the forest. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she looked a little nervous. Don't misunderstand, I just want to get some herbs from Dr. Lin. Charlotte looked at her and asked with concern, Are you feeling unwell? It's a little problem that women often have. You don't have to worry about it, Li and I said. Charlotte smiled. Then you go find Dr. Lin. I'll go back first. Forget it, I'll come back tomorrow. I'll go back with you. Li and I walked to Charlotte's side. Suddenly, she moved in front of Charlotte and sniffed him. Charlotte said, What are you doing? The smell of milk. Li and I said, You didn't ask Dr. Lin for milk, did you? Charlotte smiled bitterly. You've seen it. Why are you asking me? Why? Li and I looked at Charlotte with a strange look in her eyes. Milk thirst. Charlotte said, This is a disease that I have. My body needs to drink milk. Can't animal milk? I can find animal milk for you. Li and I said. Charlotte shook his head. Animal milk can't work. It must be human milk. How can there be such a strange disease? You didn't tell me the truth. You must have a special hobby, right? Li and I said. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Do you want to say that I'm a pervert? It doesn't matter. If you want to say it, just say it. I won't mind. Li and I did think so, but she couldn't say it. Give me a map to the Hardstone tribe. I want to go there tomorrow. Charlotte changed the topic. He walked slowly toward the village. Without a map, you have to take me with you if you want to go to the Hardstone tribe. Li and I said that no matter what you do, I will support you. The warriors of Peace Village will also support you. Well, we'll go when I'm ready, Charlotte said. What do you need to prepare? Li and I asked. Charlotte said, Machine tools. Li and I asked curiously, You want to go to the Hardstone tribe. Does it have anything to do with machine tools? Charlotte turned around and smiled. You'll know when the time comes. What will happen if you don't drink milk? Li Ni's words brought the topic back. Charlotte had a headache. It will be very uncomfortable. Are you interested in Lin Qing's milk or her milk? Charlotte was speechless. In the next few days, Charlotte spent all his time and energy on the first machine tool. He came to the new world. Li Ni's storage room could no longer satisfy him, so he went to the junkyard to look for useful parts. There were mountains of mechanical waste in the junkyard, so it was actually very easy to find the parts he wanted. The warriors of Peace Village also came to help and looked for parts according to his request. Once Huang Zhan died, the Hardstone tribe had not completed the handover of power and was in a state of internal strife. The junkyard became a very safe place. Therefore, the search for parts went smoothly. With the help of the warriors of Peace Village, Charlotte only spent 3 days to gather all the parts he needed. On the 4th day, the first machine tool Charlotte came to the new world was born. It did not have electricity, nor did it have the energy drive system of the Blue Moon people. It was completely manual. However, although it was completely manual, it was not simple at all. Charlotte used the application of mechanical energy to the extreme, coupled with many practical and ingenious uses. Its comprehensive performance was no worse than the first generation of Thunder Dragon intelligent machine tool he made in Rema Group. Charlotte gave the machine a name, Revolutionary Army First Generation. The name was given to pay tribute to the Revolutionary Army that fought for the fate of mankind. With the machine tool, Charlotte began to modify his weapons without stopping. The first to modify was the Avenger 1000 that he got from the sniper of the Hardstone tribe. From the rifling to the mechanical structure, he changed everything that could be changed. Because of the scarcity of ammunition in the New World, he even added a function to the Avenger 1000 to switch ammunition. After his modification, the Avenger 1000 could not only fire the ammunition of a sniper rifle, but also the ammunition of an ordinary rifle. On the 5th day, Charlotte remade his metal bow. He picked up better and more suitable materials from the junkyard and used them to remake a metal bow. The remade metal bow had a longer range and greater power, but it also required more strength. Even if Charlotte pulled the bow to its fullest, it would still be a little difficult. He could not pull it continuously, and he would need some time to recover after shooting an arrow. This seemed to be asking for trouble, but between power and shooting speed, he did not hesitate to choose the former. He thought about it very clearly. If he was facing the armored Blue Moon people, or even the Blue Dragon, if he could not seriously injure or even kill the target with 1 arrow, then what was the point of shooting 10 arrows? On the 6th day, Charlotte repaired the guns of the warriors of Peace Village. The parts that needed to be changed were changed, and the parts that needed to be changed were changed. With the help of this gun mechanic master, the warriors of Peace Village said goodbye to trash weapons overnight. The guns that had returned to their hands not only had their tattered appearance been swept away, but their performance had also been improved by several times. They had a longer range, higher accuracy, and smaller recoil. They were even better and more stable than new guns. In these 6 days, Charlotte, a foreigner of unknown origin, became an omnipotent existence in the eyes of the people of Peace Village. On the battlefield, he was the key person who could turn the situation around with his own strength. In the village, he was also the top technician. Not only could he repair the equipment of the Blue Moon people, but he could also modify the guns, turning the broken guns into excellent weapons. Was there anything he could not do? On the morning of the 7th day, Li and I came to the stable alone. Ramona was cleaning the assault rifle that Charlotte modified for her. She was very careful, as if she could not bear to put it down. About 100 meters behind her, there was a wooden board hanging from the trunk of a tree. There were a few rings drawn on the board, 1 ring on top of the other. It was obviously a target, and there were a few bullet holes on the centermost ring of the target. "Your marksmanship is not bad." Li and I smiled and greeted. Only then did Ramona realize that Li and I had arrived. She put down the assault rifle in her hands and gave Li and I a hug. My marksmanship is average, it's all thanks to Teacher Xia's excellent craftsmanship. The gun that he's modified has almost no recoil, and the aim is especially high. With this kind of gun, it's hard not to hit the bullseye. He is a strange man. Li and I sighed. I saw him running to Lin Qing's house all the time. If you like him, you have to work harder, Ramona said with a smile. Li Ni's face turned slightly red. I don't like him. He always goes to Lin Qing's house because he has a disease called milk thirst. He asks Lin Qing for milk. Ramona's eyes widened in shock. He said that. I don't know if it is true or not. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Li and I changed the topic. I want you to go to the headquarters of the Resistance Army. Why do we go to the headquarters of the Resistance Army? Ramona was puzzled. Li and I said, tell the people of the Resistance Army about Teacher Xia. He and his machine tools can help the Resistance Army. Think about it carefully. You are asking him to leave Peace Village to join the Resistance Army. He is so capable. If he goes to the Resistance Army, he will definitely have a better development. What will you do? Li and I pretended to be relaxed. Do you want a man like him to stay in this small village for the rest of his life? He is an eagle. He should go to a wider sky to fly. The Resistance Army is fighting for the fate of the entire human race. If the Resistance Army fails, our village will perish. This is our battle, and we should participate. If possible, I also want to join the Resistance Army. Ramona nodded. I understand. I'll make a trip there. Footsteps came from the woods. Li and I urged, you should go now. Teacher Xia and Wu De are here. We are going to the Hard Rock Tribe today. To the Hard Rock Tribe? That is too dangerous. Ramona's eyes were full of worry. Li and I smiled. With the gun that Teacher Xia modified and a sharpshooter like him, I think you should be more worried about the people of the Hard Rock Tribe. Well, take care. I am leaving. Ramona went to get the horse. As soon as Ramona left on the horse, Charlotte came over with Wu De and the black girl. Where is Ramona? Charlotte asked. Li and I said, she has something to do and left. She will not go with us to the Hard Rock Tribe this time. Then the four of us will go. Quality is more important than quantity, Charlotte said. A moment later, 4 war horses rushed out of the forest and galloped west of the village. This direction was the opposite of where Ramona was going. Chapter 1337. The light of dawn made the world very bright, and it looked full of hope, but that was an illusion. Several war horses once again appeared at the western boundary of the village. The corpses at the entrance of the valley were all gone, and the ground was full of traces of wild beast activity. The corpses of more than 30 armed men of the Hardstone tribe were undoubtedly a feast for the wild beasts that lived on this land. Teacher Xia, the Hardstone tribe is in this valley, and you can see it 10 kilometers after entering the valley, Hunyo said. Be careful after entering the valley, follow behind me, and don't walk in front of me, Charlotte warned. Li and I said, we know, we're not children, we know the danger we face. Charlotte nodded. That's good. One more thing, when I ask you to stay, you must stay. If you don't agree, go back now. Li and I, the black girl, and De who looked at each other, and finally Li and I made a decision. I agree, let's go. Charlotte clamped the horse's abdomen, and the war horse entered the valley. Li and I, the black girl, and De who followed closely behind, and also entered the valley. On both sides of the valley were steep peaks, and the slopes were covered with dense forest. A narrow muddy road stretched forward, winding, and the end couldn't be seen at a glance. The valley was quiet, and occasionally there would be the roar of a wild beast, the sudden sound making people nervous. After walking 2 kilometers along the road in front of the valley, Charlotte saw over a dozen corpses hanging on the trees on both sides of the road. Some of the corpses had already turned into white bones, and some were still in a highly decomposed state, emitting a strong stench under the sun. Ugh! Leonai couldn't help but cover her mouth, almost vomiting. "This is probably the warning sign of the Hardstone tribe," Charlotte said. "Everyone be careful, the road ahead might be dangerous." The group slowed down a lot and Charlotte rode in the front, while Leonai, Hunyo, and Wuda followed behind him. The strongest of the two men was in front, and the strongest was at the back. This kind of plastic surgery was also a kind of protection for the two women, Leonai and Hunyo. After walking for about 3 kilometers, the valley in front of them did not widen, but became smaller. A narrow pass also entered Charlotte's sight. It was on the road that they had to pass, and on both sides were high cliffs extremely steep. Walking on that road, people would worry that the rocks above their heads would fall at any time and crush them to death. Just as they were observing the pass, a ray of light suddenly came from a cliff above the pass. Xia Lei's gaze shifted over. Although his eyes had lost the ability to see through and scan, they were still extremely sensitive to changes in light. So, the 3 people of Ping Sun Village did not see it, but he did. So, the 3 people of Ping Sun Village did not see it, but he saw it. Before the 3 people from Pingon Village knew what had happened, he had already jumped down from the horse. The Avenger 1000 that was hanging from the saddle was also in his hands. At this moment, a gunshot suddenly came from the cliff, and a bullet flew over the heads of the 3 people from Pingon Village. Only then did the 3 people of Ping Sun Village react. They hurriedly dismounted, picked up their weapons, and prepared to fight. But even with the weapons in their hands, they did not know where the enemy was. Just when the people of Ping Sun Village were panicking, Charlotte suddenly raised the Avenger 1000 in his hand and aimed in one direction. The 3 people of Ping Sun Village were surprised to find that even though he was holding the sniper rifle in this position, Charlotte's hand did not even tremble a little. Bang! A gunshot sounded, and a bullet was fired from the muzzle of the Avenger 1000. 1 second later, a gunman fell from the cliff. His body hit the cliff a few times before falling to the ground. Bang bang bang, suddenly gunshots were fired from the cliff. Do you know that they came from several different directions? Charlotte's horse was hit by a stray bullet and fell to the ground. Damn! Wuda fired back and cursed. Did they know we would come? Damn it! They actually set up an ambush here. Leonai and Hunyo still had a lingering fear at this time, because if it wasn't for Charlotte's discovery of the situation, the 4 of them would have continued to approach. Once they found the natural pass, the people of the Hard Stone tribe wouldn't even need to shoot. Even if they threw stones down, they would be crushed to death. The opponent's firepower was strong, and the bullets were like rain. Leonai, Hunyo, and Wuda had to find cover, but Charlotte did not need cover, because he was wearing Huang Zhan's light armor. The only weak point on his body was the arrow hole that he shot with the metal arrow. It was almost impossible for a gunman with few skills to hit the arrow hole. In the dense gunfire, bullets rushed down from above and flew past him, and some even directly hit his body. But he didn't dodge at all. He raised the Avenger 1000 and strode toward the mountain pass. With every step he took, he fired a shot. Every time he fired a shot, an armed member of the Hard Stone tribe would fall from the cliff above the pass and become a meat patty on the road below. The battle only lasted for 2 minutes, and the armed members of the Hard Stone tribe who were lying in ambush on the cliff of the pass were all killed. Among them was a guy who hid on the cliff and pretended to be dead. When his comrade beside him was shot in the head by Xia Lei, he lost the courage to fight. He crawled in the crevice of the rocks, and only when he saw Xia Lei put away his sniper rifle did he crawl up and escape. However, he had only taken 1 step when a bullet flew from behind and blew off the back of his head. There were a total of 5 gunmen at the pass, and they were all killed by Charlotte alone. There was no exception, and all of them were shot in the head with one shot. Charlotte came to the pass and checked all the corpses, but he did not find anything like a cell phone or communicator. Then he laughed self-deprecatingly. The humans of the New World are kept on this planet like livestock by the Blue Moon people. The Blue Moon people have set up an energy field in the sky, so how can they let humans have free communication? Even the middleman, lascivious cat, used primitive letters to contact Huang Zhan, let alone these gunmen. How can they have cell phones or communicators? I wonder if the Resistance Army has them. If not, how can the commander command the battle? For some reason, he thought of the Resistance Army. Li and I walked over and looked at Charlotte with awe in her eyes. Teacher Xia, these people seem to have been lying in ambush here in advance. I'm afraid that someone has leaked the news that we're coming to the Hard Stone tribe. If we go deeper, we'll definitely be in danger. Why don't we go back and wait for the right opportunity to come again? Charlotte said, No, you guys stay here. I'll go in alone. How can you do that? Li and I suddenly became anxious. Charlotte said, These people are not guarding here because they received any information. We've killed Huang Zhan, so the Hard Stone tribe will definitely send people to guard this pass to prevent you guys from taking the opportunity to attack them. Are you sure that someone didn't leak our plan? Li and I still wanted to persuade Charlotte. It was not strange for her to have such thoughts. She thought that she had already sent Ramona to the headquarters of the Resistance Army to recommend Charlotte to the Resistance Army. If Charlotte died in the Hard Stone tribe, it would be a great loss for the Resistance Army. Moreover, she also had plans to follow Charlotte to join the Resistance Army. She wanted to be with Charlotte. Under such circumstances, how could she be at ease with letting Charlotte enter the Hard Stone tribe alone? Charlotte said, Don't try to persuade me anymore. Of course, I have my reasons for making such a judgment. What I've decided will not change. You guys can either stay here or go back. You're really... Li and I felt a little wronged when her good intentions were rejected like this. Charlotte, however, did not say anything more, and stepped onto the path to enter the mountain pass alone. Li and I wanted to chase after him, but Hunyo pulled on her arm. Village Chief, Teacher Xia has already said it very clearly. If we follow him, we won't be able to help him, but will become a burden to him. Let's stay here and wait for him to come back. But, Li and I looked at Charlotte's back, unwilling to give up. Hunyo moved closer to Li Ni's ear, and whispered, Men don't like women who cling to them. Believe me, it's useless even if you chase after him. Perhaps these words had an effect, because Li and I gave up on the idea of chasing after him. She stood quietly at the mountain pass, watching Charlotte walk away, and then disappear from her sight. Charlotte walked along the mountain path on the cliff. His speed was not fast, and as he walked, his gaze constantly swept the space to his left and right, as well as the space above his head, very carefully. After walking for a while, he discovered that the so-called valley was actually just the small valley behind him. The further he walked, the smaller the space became. The road under his feet basically meandered along the cliff, and even a long walk seemed very dangerous. After an hour, the narrow and dangerous mountain path finally came to an end. The space in front of Charlotte suddenly opened up, and a small basin surrounded by mountains entered his sight. In the middle of that small basin there was a group of buildings, and the scale was slightly larger than that of Peace Village. The style of the buildings was completely different from that of Peace Village. There were houses built with metal fragments, and there were also houses built with boxes similar to shipping containers. The tallest building was a building built with metal waste and boxes. The structure was chaotic, just like a huge garbage dump. Its overall height was about 20 meters, and if it could be considered a building, then it would be the first building he saw after coming to the New World. That was the mischievous Rock Tribe, the strongest tribe in this area. There was originally a forest around the mischievous Rock Tribe, but the trees were all cut down, and only pieces of tree stumps were left. It would be almost impossible to sneak into the mischievous rock tribe during the day. While observing the surrounding area of the mischievous rock tribe, Charlotte saw iron poles, and each iron pole had a corpse pierced through it. Some had not completely decayed, and some were already white skeletons. Those iron poles circled around the territory of the mischievous rock tribe, and the skeletons also circled around the mischievous rock tribe. With the skeletons and huge metal waste as a foil, the mischievous rock tribe exuded a dark and depraved aura. Xia Lei withdrew his gaze and took out the small black stone he had obtained from Huang Zhan's body. He could feel the energy contained in the stone, and it was so mysterious and powerful. Huang Zhan carried this stone with him, so he must know the value of this stone. I hope I can find some clues in his vault, Charlotte thought to himself. He would sneak into the mischievous rock tribe when it was dark. Chapter 1338. As night fell, the small basin surrounded by mountains was immersed in the darkness. A patch of dark clouds obscured the cold light of the blue moon. The Hardstone tribe became a blur in the night, like a metal monster lurking in the basin. Charlotte stealthily moved toward the Hardstone tribe in the middle of the basin. He was wearing a black armor that could help him blend into the darkness better. As he approached the Hardstone tribe, Charlotte stopped and lay prone on the ground to observe. He wanted to find out where Huang Zhan lived, as well as the place that was most likely the vault. Just as he was observing the internal environment of the Hardstone tribe, a fire suddenly lit up in the tribe. It was not just one or two fires, but a circle of bonfires around the tribe. A huge bonfire was lit at the top of the tallest metal building in the tribe. The light pouring down from a height of 20 meters almost illuminated the entire Hardstone tribe. All the bonfires were not made of firewood, but liquid that was suspected to be crude oil. This was because when the bonfires burned, not only did Charlotte see billowing black smoke, but he also smelled a strong smell of gas. The metal building in the middle of the tribe was obviously the center of the entire Hardstone tribe. It could also be said to be the center of power. When the bonfires were lit, a group of armed men patrolled the edge of the Hardstone tribe. There were 10 men in this patrol, all armed with assault rifles. The patrolling attitude was also very serious. If they found anything suspicious, they would check it. Has the new chief of the Hardstone tribe been born? If not, this place should be very chaotic, but it looks heavily guarded and orderly. So, who could be the chief of the Hardstone tribe? Charlotte's heart was full of guesses. The patrol of the Hardstone tribe left and went somewhere else. Charlotte climbed out of his hiding place, quickly passed through the first line of defense of the Hardstone tribe, and entered the interior of the tribe. His target was the tallest metal building. Based on his previous observations, he suspected that Huang Zhan's nest was in that metal building. More than 10 minutes later, Charlotte snuck between the buildings until he was near the tallest metal building. He saw the door of the metal building and 4 armed men standing on both sides of the door. It was impossible to sneak into the metal building without alerting the 4 armed men, so he had to find another way. Charlotte observed for a moment, and his gaze finally moved to the back of the metal building. It was relatively dark and unguarded. The metal building did not have smooth walls, so it was not difficult for him to climb up from the back. But just as Charlotte made up his mind to sneak over, the lights in the room next to him suddenly lit up, and there was the sound of people talking. "Where are you going so late?" It was a woman's voice, with a hint of laziness. "It's all because of that damned guy. The leader arranged for me to guard that guy tonight. You can sleep alone." It was a man's voice, and his tone carried a hint of dissatisfaction. "Are you talking about the guy called Liang Tao that Huang Zhan captured?" A woman's voice. "Yes, it's him." A man's voice said, "I heard that he is the think tank of the Revolutionary Army." My ass. Wasn't he still captured by Huang Zhan? A think tank should be very smart. Since he has been captured, I think he is just an idiot. A woman's voice said. Who knows why he came to our place? Baby, I have to go. Skeletons don't like people to be lazy. A man's voice said, and then there was the rustling sound of clothes being put on. You're so annoying. I was just interested, and you have to leave again. A woman's voice said coquettishly, I'll come back tomorrow morning when I come back. Ha ha. A man laughed, and then there was the sound of kissing. A minute later, a man walked out of the room. It was a skinny white man with a mohawk hairstyle. His neck and face were full of tattoos, and he even wore a nose ring. He looked very ferocious. The white man walked to the metal building's gate, and from time to time, he would scratch his crotch. It was unknown whether it was a bad habit or because he did that kind of thing without washing it. The Caucasian man greeted the 4 guards at the gate. Sissay, are you with that bitch Mei Rong again? I heard she hasn't been clean recently. She's sick. Aren't you afraid of getting infected? A bald guard greeted the white man. The white man called Sissay said, I like sick women. It's more exciting and interesting when I do it. What's the smell? Well, it's like a rotten tomato, ha ha. Sissay said with a laugh. The guards at the gate laughed, and some even said it was disgusting. Just as the guards were joking with Sissay, Charlotte had already bypassed the house and sneaked to the back of the metal building. He quickly determined the route to climb. Then, he stepped on the ground, leaped up, grabbed a piece of metal trash above his head, and climbed up. This metal building was made up of pieces of metal garbage, but the houses were similar to containers. In the process of climbing, Xia Lei caught a glimpse of many people living in boxes. Most of them were armed men from the Hard Rock tribe. The environment of the metal building had become very bad because of them. He could even see feces in some places, which disgusted Charlotte, who had sneaked into the metal building. What disgusted him even more was that some of the armed men living in the metal building were playing with women, while others were attacking their own kind. He accidentally saw it, and his back was covered with goosebumps. Compared to Peace Village, this place was foul. It was really a dark and depraved place. As he approached the top of the metal building, Charlotte slowed down. At the top of the metal building was an oval-shaped metal cabin. There were windows, but it was impossible to see what was inside. Based on its shape and material, it looked like the cockpit of a spaceship abandoned by the Blue Moon people. Charlotte had a feeling that the oval-shaped metal cabin was most likely the core of the entire Hard Rock tribe. Huang Zhan used to live in the cockpit of the spaceship and ruled the entire Hard Rock tribe. Just as Charlotte was observing the oval-shaped metal cabin, the white man called Sissay had also climbed to a position parallel to him. There were only a few metal boxes that looked like containers placed side by side between them. Charlotte hurriedly hid himself. Sissay was stuffed into one of the metal boxes. After Sissay entered the metal box, Charlotte climbed up and prepared to approach the oval-shaped metal cabin at the top. When he climbed over the height of the metal boxes, one of them came into his sight. There was a skylight at the top of the metal box, but there was no glass. Through the skylight, he saw Sissay and a man wearing glasses. The man looked to be in his 40s. He had fair skin, medium height, and a slightly plump body. The glasses on the bridge of his nose gave him a bookish look, and the first impression he gave was that of a quiet and weak intellectual. Is he the Liang Tao that the woman mentioned? The think tank of the resistance army? The image of the middle-aged man in the metal box made Charlotte naturally associate him with the think tank. At that moment, he had a slight impulse to save the middle-aged man. However, he suppressed the thought as soon as it appeared. It was not that he was not going to save him. It was easy to save the middle-aged man, but what about after he was rescued? He could not sneak into the oval-shaped metal cabin at the top, nor could he find clues about the black stone. Therefore, even if he wanted to save him, he could only wait until he returned. Once he was done with his own matters, it would be much easier to rescue the man and bring him out. Just as Charlotte made up his mind to continue climbing up, the middle-aged man in the metal box suddenly spoke. "Kid, what the F*** did you lick? Your mouth stinks more than my feet. Stay away from me, I'm going to puke. F***ck. Sisay was instantly enraged. He raised his fist and threw it at the middle-aged man's face. Do you want to die? The middle-aged man tilted his neck back and easily avoided Sisay's fist. His tone was flat, but there was a hint of coldness in his bones. You're just a captive. Who are you trying to scare? Sisay said fiercely. A lazy smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. Then, do you desire to get rich? Damn, what are you trying to say? I, Liang Tao, have wandered the world, flirted with countless beauties, and found countless treasures. I can just give you a little, and you won't have to worry about it for the rest of your life. How about this, release my shackles and handcuffs and take me out of here. I'll give you a fortune that you won't be able to enjoy for the rest of your life? The middle-aged man said. He was indeed the Liang Tao that the woman had mentioned. It was just that he did not know if this uncle, who talked big, was some kind of think tank or strategist of the resistance army. Shut your mouth. Sisay waved his fist and threatened, if Skeleton hears this, I won't be able to bear the consequences. But before that, I'll break all your ribs. Liang Tao suddenly said, Friend, if I really have treasures, won't you be tempted? Save me, and I'll give you a generous reward. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. When this Liang Tao was talking to Sisay, he said, Take me out, but now he said, Save me, and he even mentioned friend. He was clearly not talking to Sisay. He was not talking to Sisay. There was only Charlotte here, but he had not raised his head to look at the skylight of the metal box. How did he sense that someone was outside? What the hell are you talking about? Sisay suddenly raised his head to look at the skylight, but by the time he raised his head, Charlotte had already hidden himself. He did not see anyone up there at all. Liang Tao said again, Friend, if you don't save me, I'll cry, and I'll cry very loudly. Charlotte was speechless. This was already a disguised form of blackmail. Charlotte smiled bitterly. This Liang Tao was really an interesting person. I'm really going to cry. Liang Tao said loudly. You're crazy. Sisay kicked Liang Tao. Whoosh. With a piercing sound, a metal arrow suddenly flew down from the skylight, entered Sisay's head, and then came out from his back. With a kacha sound it plunged into the floor of the metal box. The floor of the metal box was also made of metal, but in front of that metal arrow, it was as fragile as tofu. Only then did Liang Tao raise his head to look at the skylight, and said with a smile, My friend, come down. Charlotte climbed in through the skylight, and looked at Liang Tao with an expressionless face. Liang Tao shrugged his shoulders. I know I'm going too far, but uncle, there's no other way. If you leave, I'm finished. With that, he stretched out his handcuffed hands in front of Charlotte. Untie uncle. Chapter 1339. Charlotte didn't move. He looked at Liang Tao and asked, Uncle, who are you? I'm a man. Liang Tao looked serious. Do you want me to take off my pants and let you verify it? I can do it. I really can. With that, he really wanted to untie his belt. That's enough. Charlotte said, Stop it. I heard some information about you. Someone said that you are the leader of the resistance army. You came here and got caught. Tell me, what are you doing here? Liang Tao's eyes suddenly had a hint of vigilance. Who are you? I'm asking you questions. You should know your situation very well. Charlotte's face was expressionless. I will only give you one chance. Answer my question, and then I will untie your handcuffs and shackles. Hee. Liang Tao suddenly laughed. What are you laughing at? There is no hostility in your eyes. There is even a trace of sympathy. Liang Tao said lightly, Your reaction shows that you are not a bad person. You like the resistance army, right? So, even if I don't answer your question, you will untie my handcuffs and shackles, right? Arrogant. Charlotte pulled out the metal arrow that was stuck in the metal floor, and then gently leaped and grabbed the skylight above his head. Hey, are you really leaving? Aren't you afraid that I will scream? Even if I leave, you won't scream, right? Charlotte bent his arms and was ready to climb up the skylight. Liang Tao suddenly said, "Well, kid? I am indeed a member of the Resistance Army, but I am not here for the Resistance Army. I have my own purpose. Tell me." Charlotte let go and returned to Liang Tao. Liang Tao was silent for a moment before he said, "I received news that a spiritual mine was found in Area 51. The Wancher tribe has a spiritual mine, so I took the risk to sneak into the Wancher tribe, and then..." He shrugged. "You can see that this is the result of my action. I failed. Being handsome sometimes produces a kind of blind confidence. I believe in my ability too much." Charlotte wasn't in the mood to joke at all. "You mentioned a spirit mine. What's a spirit mine?" "It's not surprising that you don't know the secret of the spirit mine, because the spirit mine is a top secret to the people of Blue Moon. Untie my handcuffs and shackles. We can talk after we leave this place. This is not a place to chat," Liang Tao said. Charlotte said, "I can untie you, but you have to stay here for the time being. Don't go out and alarm the guards here." "Are you going up?" "Yes, I want to go up and take a look," Charlotte said. "You're actually here to investigate the spirit mine, right?" Liang Tao stared straight at Charlotte. His sharp eyes seemed to penetrate Charlotte's soul and dig out all of Charlotte's secrets. Charlotte did not answer Liang Tao's question. He found the key from Sisei's corpse and unlocked Liang Tao's handcuffs and shackles. With his hands and feet free, Liang Tao rubbed his wrist. But at the moment he rubbed his wrist, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the Avenger 1000 sniper rifle on Charlotte's back. His speed was extremely fast, and his movements were extremely accurate. However, his opponent was a master of Wing Chun, Charlotte. Xia Lei raised his elbow and easily blocked Liang Tao's sneak attack. Then, he straightened his arm and pushed his palm against Liang Tao's chest. He didn't use much strength, but Liang Tao still staggered and fell to the ground. Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with surprised eyes. "Who are you?" "Stay here." Charlotte didn't continue to attack because he could see that Liang Tao's action was just a test, and he didn't really want to attack him. "I'll go with you," Liang Tao said. Charlotte said, "That won't do. If you want to leave here alive, you have to listen to me. If you want to die..." Liang Tao interrupted Charlotte's words. "If your purpose is also the spiritual mine, then you need my help." Charlotte's heart moved slightly. Although he wasn't sure what the spiritual mine Liang Tao was talking about was, he had a hunch that the spiritual mine Liang Tao was talking about was the black stone he got from Huang Zhan's body. He hesitated a little. "From your reaction, I guessed right." Liang Tao stared straight at Charlotte. "You really came for the spiritual mine, then you must take me with you." Charlotte said, "Why?" Liang Tao said, "Because I've been studying the spiritual mine all my life. I know far more than you." Charlotte hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pocket and took out the black stone. He held the stone in his palm and showed it to Liang Tao. "Is this the spiritual mine you're talking about?" When Charlotte took out the black stone, Liang Tao's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were filled with excitement. "Where did you get it? Answer my question." Charlotte put the black stone back into his pocket. "Yes, you're holding the spiritual mine in your hand. You really came for the spiritual mine, then you must take me with you. I know where Huang Zhan's treasure house is. It's not here at all. I can take you there, but the premise is that you have the key. Do you have the key?" Charlotte smiled. "Come with me. You even have the key." "I know who killed Huang Zhan," Liang Tao said with a smile. Charlotte no longer spoke to him. He gently jumped up and grabbed the edge of the skylight. Then he pulled with both hands and climbed out. When he climbed onto the metal box, he was ready to reach out to pull Liang Tao. However, Liang Tao actually imitated his movements and also climbed onto the metal box. Liang Tao's movements were not like those of a middle-aged uncle or an intellectual. Instead, he was like a habitual criminal who often climbed through windows to steal women's underwear. He was agile and experienced. Xia Lei raised his head to take a look. No need to go up. We have to go down. I'll take you to Huang Zhan's treasure house, Liang Tao said. Charlotte suddenly made a soft shoo sound. He then raised his head and looked at the oval metal cabin above. There was a door in front of the metal cabin. In front of the door was a hollow metal plate. Before, there was no one on this hollow metal plate, but now there was a person standing on it. He was at least 2 meters tall. His upper body was bare, and his body was covered with discus-like muscles. He was strong to an almost exaggerated degree. There was no hair on his head. His scalp, neck, face, and body were covered with tattoos. Those tattoos were almost all related to darkness, depravity, and fear. Especially on his face, there was a terrible skull tattooed on his face. Seeing the tattoos on his face, Charlotte also guessed his identity. This giant man was the new leader of the Hard Stone tribe, Skeleton. Without waiting for Charlotte to call out, seeing Skeleton appear, Liang Tao had already hidden in a dark corner. Charlotte looked at him speechlessly and then also hid. At this time, the giant skeleton put his hands on a railing and shouted in a direction, "Keep your spirits up. That lustful cat may sneak attack us. If anyone comes in, I will eat him alive." Lustful cat? Charlotte secretly said in his heart, Skeleton is talking about the middleman Lustful Cat. Lustful Cat wants to attack here? Skeleton did not stay for long. After shouting, he turned around and walked into the oval metal cabin. He suddenly came out as if to remind his men. After the skeleton returned to the oval-shaped metal cabin, Xia Lei left his hiding place and climbed down. Liang Tao also climbed down with him. At first, he was a little worried that Liang Tao would not be able to keep up with him. However, when he saw that the uncle climbed as fast as a monkey, he realized that all his worries were unnecessary. A few minutes later, the two returned to the ground. "Follow me." Liang Tao walked to the north of the Hard Stone tribe. He crouched down, looking like a habitual thief. Charlotte followed Liang Tao to the north of the Hard Stone tribe. Along the way, Liang Tao could avoid all the dangers by himself without Charlotte's reminders. Only then did Charlotte understand that this uncle dared to sneak into the Hard Stone tribe alone. If he did not have any skills, would he dare to come? Charlotte thought that Liang Tao would take him to a building or a basement in the tribe, but Liang Tao actually took him out of the first line of defense of the Hard Stone tribe. The Hard Stone tribe was left behind. The tall metal building was still emitting flames, which was particularly eye-catching in the dark. The bones on the metal poles were also a reminder of what kind of place this was. "Where are you taking me?" Charlotte stopped in his tracks. "If you want to use me to escape from here, then you have achieved your goal. You can leave here and return to the resistance army." That was what Charlotte was thinking. This cunning uncle had used him to escape from the Hard Stone tribe. However, even if Liang Tao had used him, he would not do anything to Liang Tao because Liang Tao was a member of the resistance army and he respected the resistance army who fought for the fate of mankind. Therefore, if he saved an important figure of the resistance army, it would not be a big deal even if he was deceived by this guy once. "Brother, do I look like the kind of person who likes to deceive others in your eyes?" Liang Tao asked. Charlotte nodded. "You look like one from head to toe." Liang Tao had a strange expression on his face. "I have been a playboy all my life. I only deceive women, not men." Charlotte was speechless. Liang Tao smiled. "Come with me. I will take you to Huang Zhan's treasure house." Charlotte did not move. How could Huang Zhan build his treasure house outside of the Hard Stone tribe? Also, how could you know such a secret? You are too meticulous. This is not good. You can play by yourself. Goodbye. Charlotte turned to leave. "Wait, okay. Liang Tao shrugged his shoulders, his face full of a bitter smile. I learned this secret from the mouth of Huang Zhen's woman. That night I had sex with her 8 times, making her dizzy. You know, sometimes when you enter a woman's hole, it is equivalent to entering that woman's heart. She is willing to tell you anything. Charlotte could not find any adjectives to describe the guy in front of him. He did not know why he was willing to believe such a reason when it came from Liang Tao's mouth. However, he did not believe that he had slept with Huang Zhan's woman 8 times. The number was very exaggerated. Huang Zhan is a very cunning guy. At the same time, he is also a very greedy and selfish guy. Almost all of his wealth came from the Hard Stone tribe. He does not want others to know how much wealth the Hard Stone tribe has. That is why he built his treasure house outside of the Hard Stone tribe and sent his most trusted confidants to guard it. At this point, Liang Tao asked, "Do you know the other reason why he did this? He wants to leave this place?" Charlotte said. Liang Tao continued to walk towards a mountain peak in the north. As he walked, he said, "This area is about to be cleansed by the Blue Moon people. When that time comes, no one here will be able to survive. Huang Zhan has his own channels to learn this secret. He has been preparing for it for a long time." Charlotte was moved. The Blue Moon people want to clean up this place? For what? Liang Tao said, "I do not know for now, but this area is hiding some secret. I guess it is related to the spirit mine. The Blue Moon people are also looking for spirit mines. If it is related to the spirit mine, then it is not strange for the Blue Moon people to clean up the 11th district. Then why not tell the people here and let them leave?" Charlotte said, "The resistance army is supposed to protect the people here." Liang Tao sighed. "The resistance army is not as strong as you think. If they are not careful in the battle with the Blue Moon people, they will be wiped out. We can't evacuate the people in Area 51, and we can't bear the risk of being exposed. Once the Blue Moon people find out, we will be dead. Also, this is just groundless information. No one can confirm whether it's true or not." This was Liang Tao's explanation, full of bitterness and helplessness. Charlotte also sighed in his heart. This was war. In an environment of war, people's lives were like grass. The Hard Stone tribe behind them was getting further and further away, and the mountain peak in the north was getting closer. What was in Huang Zhan's treasure house? Chapter 1340. Arriving at the foot of the northern mountain peak, Charlotte looked up, but he did not see any traces of human buildings. All he could see were stones, not even a tree. The peaks near this mountain were also barren and filled with jagged rocks of grotesque shapes, forming a desolate scene. It was really unexpected that Huang Zhan had built his treasure house in such a place. If he had not happened to save Liang Tao, Charlotte would never have dreamed that Huang Zhan's treasure house would be in such a place. So sometimes, doing a little good will always have unexpected rewards. "Brother, come with me." Liang Tao climbed up the slope. There was no road on the hillside, and the terrain was steep. The two of them climbed over the hillside, then moved horizontally to the other side of the mountain peak. The road under their feet disappeared, but the terrain became flat. The mountain in this place suddenly caved in. It was not very large, only a few hundred square meters, and was surrounded by steep mountain walls. It gave people the feeling that a god had used a shovel to shovel off a part of the mountain to create a natural basement. Charlotte's eyes moved to the northwest corner of the basement, and he saw a cave. The entrance to the cave was very small, and it was only enough for people to squeeze in. The cave was dark, and it was impossible to see what was inside. However, he had a hunch that the cave was where Liang Tao wanted to take him. Huang Zhan's treasure house was in that cave. Sure enough, Liang Tao waved to him, and then led him to the cave. "This place is really hidden." Charlotte said, "You said that you had slept with Huang Zhan's woman. Did his woman tell you what was hidden in the treasure house?" Liang Tao said. She didn't say that, because she didn't know that only Huang Zhan could enter Huang Zhan's treasure house, and even his woman was no exception. Didn't you say that Huang Zhan had sent his trusted men to guard the treasure house? Why didn't I see them? Charlotte had a very strange premonition in his heart. It was not dangerous, but he always felt a little uneasy. I don't know about that. To be honest, I just escaped. After Huang Tao was killed by you, the Hardstone tribe experienced a civil war. Huang Zhan's trusted aides either died or fled. This may be the reason why there is no one guarding this place, Liang Tao said. As the two of them talked, they arrived at the entrance of the cave. Liang Tao was about to go in when Charlotte suddenly pulled him back. What? Liang Tao asked. Charlotte whispered, There's someone inside. Liang Tao suddenly became nervous. He poked his head out from the side of the cave and looked inside. Then, he carefully listened to the sounds inside. But all he could see was darkness, and all he could hear was the howling of the wind. Apart from that, there was nothing else. No one's here, Liang Tao said curiously. Follow me and don't make a sound, Charlotte said. Liang Tao nodded, then followed him down and carefully walked into the cave. He saw Charlotte, who was walking in front, untied the metal bow on his shoulder, and then pulled out 2 metal arrows from the quiver. Charlotte's reaction was obviously the reaction of approaching a battle, but until this time, he still did not see anyone in the cave, nor did he hear anyone make any sound. His heart was getting more and more strange. After walking for about 20 or 30 meters, the entrance passage of the cave suddenly widened and became higher. Then, after a corner, the interior of the cave appeared in front of them. It was not very big, only a few hundred square meters, but it gave people a feeling of sudden openness and majesty. After turning the corner, a ball of fire entered the sight of Charlotte and Liang Tao. It was the light released by 2 torches, one of which was placed in a gap in the stone wall, and the other was held in a person's hand. There really was someone. Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with a strange look. He did not know how Charlotte found out that there was someone in the cave, because the corner of the cave not only blocked the light, but also blocked the sound. From the entrance of the cave, they could not see the situation inside, nor could they hear the sound inside. Under the same conditions, why did he not find anything, but Charlotte knew that there was someone inside? One of the 2 people was a middle-aged man, and the other was a young woman. Both the man and the woman were carrying weapons. In front of the 2 was a rock wall. It was bumpy and there was nothing on it. At this time, the 2 people had a conversation. I remember it very clearly. This is the position, said the young woman. The dead man's treasure house is here. Baby, this is a rock. Are you sure you remember it correctly? Said the middle-aged man. The young woman hit the rock wall with the handle of the gun, but it did not make a sound. When the metal gun handle hit the surface of the rock, a few sparks popped out. The sound of the gun handle hitting the rock wall and the burst of sparks indicated one thing. It was indeed a rock wall, and there was nothing behind it. Damn it, it's clearly here. Why is it like this? The young woman was very annoyed. The middle-aged man said, Baby, think again. Is there something wrong? This is the first time I've been to this place, but I believe what Wu Du told me on the pillow is true. Wu Du was Huang Zhan's most trusted aide and the person who guarded the treasure house for Huang Zhan. But that idiot actually fought with the skeleton for power and was killed by the skeleton. Huang Zhan is dead, and Wu Du is also dead. In this world, only the 2 of them know the secret of the treasure house. And me, but I've never been here. The young woman said. Then we can only search slowly. How about this? I'll start from the left and you start from the right. If there is a treasure house behind the rock, then there will be a sound. In addition, you should also pay attention to the cracks on the rock. If there is a strange crack, then it might be a door crack, the middle-aged man said. The young woman and the middle-aged man split up. One kept hitting the rock wall on the left with the gun handle, and the other kept hitting the rock wall on the right with the gun handle. At the corner, Liang Tao whispered into Charlotte's ear, "Brother, the woman I slept with is her. This slut's skills in bed are very good. She can even suck dirt while sitting on the ground." "Charlotte, what I just said is correct. Huang Zhan's treasure house is here, but the people who know the secret of the treasure house are all dead. Even Huang Zhan's woman doesn't know the specific location. Liang Tao's voice stopped here. He actually had no idea in his heart. Charlotte said, "Let's take a look first. Let's wait for those two people to search first." Liang Tao nodded his head. In the cave, the two people continued to hit the rock wall. There was a constant sound of collision, and there were sparks from the collision of metal and rock. Charlotte began to miss his X-ray vision. If his X-ray vision could still be used normally, he would only need to casually glance to find the location of the treasure house. At this moment, the young woman suddenly stopped and stared at the rock wall in front of her. Did she find it? Charlotte's heart was filled with excitement. But just as Charlotte was secretly excited, the young woman suddenly took off her pants and squatted down. Shoo, the clear sound of water came, and it was particularly loud in this enclosed space. Under the illumination of the fire, the woman's big white ball was also very eye-catching. It was white, plump, and beautiful, with a mature sexiness. Several black lines quietly appeared on Charlotte's forehead. He thought that the young woman had found the location of the treasure house, but he didn't expect that she actually stopped to pee. TSK, this little slut's butt is really sexy. That feeling is really cool. Liang Tao leaned over to Charlotte's ear and said such a sentence. Charlotte looked at this unscrupulous uncle speechlessly. Liang Tao vowed, "What I said is true. I didn't lie to you. If you don't believe me, you can try it yourself later. If you enter from the back, wow, that feeling is really great." Charlotte reached out and covered Liang Tao's mouth. He really couldn't listen to it. But the strange thing was that he actually followed Liang Tao's thoughts and imagined it. This made a few more black lines appear on his forehead. This was probably the saying, "One is marked by the company one keeps, one is blackened by the company one keeps." "Dear, I found it. Come over and see what I found." The young woman suddenly shouted excitedly. The middle-aged man ran over. The young woman didn't stand up, but just moved a step to the side. At such an important moment, she unexpectedly didn't finish peeing. From between her legs, there was still a stream of water pouring on the ground, making a very special sound. The middle-aged man leaned over and raised the torch in his hand to illuminate the place where the young woman peed. At that moment, a straight crack appeared on the ground. Charlotte's line of sight moved to that straight crack, and his heart couldn't help but become excited. That crack was not a naturally formed crack, but a crack in the door to the treasure house, including the fact that they were not on the rock wall, but on the ground under the rock wall. If it weren't for the young woman squatting down to pee in that place, and the urine washed out from the crack in the door, and then flowed into the treasure house, perhaps no one would be able to find the treasure house of the website. This was a very difficult mistake to avoid, because when people think of a door, they usually think of the door being installed on the wall, and not the ground under their feet. From this point alone, it was not difficult to see Huang Zhan's cunning and intelligence. "Hurry, hurry, hurry, pee a little bit here, and also that side." The middle-aged man began to instruct the young woman to pee. Hiss, 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 the young woman constantly moved her big white ball, and then peed in different places. When she finished peeing, all 4 cracks in the door of the treasure house were poured out by her. Liang Tao paid attention to the whole process, and his 2 eyes were wide open. Charlotte didn't miss any details, but he thought that he was doing business, and his goal was completely different. The woman pulled up her pants and stood up, and while fastening her belt she said, "Hurry up and ignite the explosives, blow it up, and then we'll take the things inside and run away. Help me hold the torch." The middle-aged man handed the torch in his hand to the young woman. The young woman took the torch from the middle-aged man's hand, and then leaned into the middle-aged man's arms. She kissed the middle-aged man's lips. Dear, we're going to be rich. Without me, you can't get Huang Zhan's treasure. You have to treat me well in the future, understand? Don't worry, I'll treat you better than I treat my mother in the future. Baby, I'll listen to everything you say in the future, okay? The middle-aged man said honeyed words. Good girl. The woman suddenly stepped back, and looked at the sharp knife in her heart in horror. The middle-aged man sneered and said, You slut, do you think I really love you? I just wanted Huang Zhan's treasure, and now that I've found it, I don't need you anymore, so you can go to hell. If you die, no one will share the treasure with me, isn't that good? You. The young woman didn't finish her words and fell to the ground. Dark red blood flowed from her chest, and in the blink of an eye, her big chest was dyed red. Chapter 1341. A teasing hug and kiss suddenly turned into murder. Such a change caught both Charlotte and Liang Tao unprepared. Seeing the young woman lying on the ground with blood flowing everywhere, Xia Lei couldn't help but sympathize with the woman in his heart. Although she was coquettish, she could sleep with anyone. She was cunning and could fool anyone. But she didn't deserve to die like this, and in such a betrayed way. TSK. B***TCH. After killing someone, the middle-aged man spat at the young woman in disgust. The young woman had stopped convulsing. She was dead. The middle-aged man took out 4 bags of explosives from his backpack and placed them on the 4 corners of the door. His movements in placing the explosives and wiring were very skilled and professional. It was not difficult to tell that he was an expert in this field. Charlotte suddenly remembered the little soldier from the Village of Peace that was dismembered by the senior a week ago, and the explosives hidden behind the cabin. Could it be that this guy killed someone and hid the explosives in that explosion? Charlotte walked out from the corner and strode towards the middle-aged man. The sudden sound of footsteps startled the middle-aged man who was about to light the fuse with the torch. He hurriedly turned around and pulled out his gun. The middle-aged man's reaction was very fast, but he was still not as fast as the flying arrow. Just as his hand grabbed the handle of the assault rifle hanging on his waist, a metal arrow flew over and pierced into his elbow. In that instant, before his nerves could transmit the sensation of pain to his brain, that metal arrow had already torn off his right elbow. The metal arrow plunged into the rock along with a forearm. Aff! The middle-aged man fell from the rock wall to the ground. He instinctively used his remaining left hand to grab the assault rifle, but at that moment Xia Lei, who was holding the metal bow, stepped on the back of his left hand. Charlotte kicked the assault rifle away. Liang Tao picked up the assault rifle, but he did not take the next step. His mind was still stuck on the moment when Charlotte had shot the middle-aged man's arm. The shock that Charlotte had given him was incomparable. Tell me, at the border of Pingon village a week ago, were you the one who set the explosives? Charlotte asked. Who are you? The middle-aged man looked at Charlotte in horror. Charlotte exerted a little more force with his feet. Ah! The middle-aged man wailed loudly. I'll talk, it's me, it's all Huang Zhan's orders, please don't kill me. I don't want the treasure anymore. You can take it. Let me go. Charlotte's lips curled into a cold smile. Let you go? Then you went to tell Skeleton, right? No, I will never tell Skeleton. I also escaped from the Hardstone tribe. Please let me go. The middle-aged man begged. Charlotte said, If you hadn't killed that woman, I might not have killed you. You slept with her, and she took you to find the treasure. But you killed her to keep the treasure for yourself. It's an insult to people to let scum like you live. As his voice fell, Charlotte suddenly waved his arm. The steel rope bowstring of the metal bow cut the middle-aged man's neck and cut his carotid artery. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Brother, You look like a person I know, Liang Tao said. Who? Xiaolei reached out and pulled out the metal arrow that was stuck in the rock wall. He had just used a cruel method to kill a person, but there was no expression on his face at all. His calm state of mind was like he had just stepped on an ant. Lu Bai, have you heard of his name? Yes, I've heard of him from the people of Peace Village. Lu Bai is the god of war of your resistance army, right? Charlotte remembered the name because Li and I had mentioned it to him. Liang Tao said, You should really meet him. Your killing style is somewhat similar. He is also the kind of person who abhors evil. If you two are together, you will definitely become good friends. Are you trying to pull me into your group? If you say so, then so be it. Liang Tao smiled. Joining the resistance army and fighting for the fate of mankind is a very honorable thing. Charlotte also smiled. I'm used to being free. I don't like to join any organization. Think about it. There are many beautiful girl warriors in our resistance army. A handsome guy like you, well, don't say any more. Charlotte began to work. The 4 explosives had been removed. Charlotte had the key, so he did not need to blow up the door of Huang Zhan's treasury. Liang Tao also came to help. He dragged the young woman's body to the side. As he dragged the body, he said to himself, When I asked you to let me out, I wanted to take you away, but you didn't listen. Now you've been killed by someone, right? In your next life, you can become a beauty again. Let's continue our predestined relationship. Charlotte found a secret board in a pile of urine stains. It was parallel to the ground and dust filled the gap. If it were not for the woman's urine passing on the dust, causing it to sink, he would not have found it. The secret board was loose, so Charlotte pried it up with a military knife. Then, he saw a keyhole hidden under the board. He took out the key ring he had obtained from Huang Zhan and then inserted the unique big key into the keyhole. He tried to turn it and it worked. Then, he twisted it in a circle. Ka ka ka. The sound of a series of metal gears turning came from underground, and the ground under Charlotte's feet slowly sank. Unsure of the situation below, Charlotte left the range of the treasury door and watched it slowly sink. Liang Tao said in surprise, I didn't expect such a small place to have such a treasury. I really don't know how Huang Zhan did it. Charlotte suddenly remembered something. He asked casually, What is a big city like? Have you never been to a big city? Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with a strange look. I don't know. I've forgotten my past, Charlotte said. Ha. Do you think I'm a little girl? You're lying to me? It's up to you to believe it or not. Tomorrow City in Area 51 is a big city with more than 1,000 years of history, but it was all destroyed by the Blue Moon people. The headquarters of the resistance is in Tomorrow City. Come with me. A man should have a career and a lot of women. In Tomorrow City you can realize all your dreams. How far is it from here? Not far. Leave the Hard Stone tribe and head east. It will take 3 days on horseback and about 10 days on foot. It's only a few 100 kilometers, Liang Tao said. I will go, but not with you, Charlotte said. At this time, the treasury door had reached the bottom, and there was a big pit almost 5 meters deep in the ground. Rather than calling it a door, it was more like an elevator. Just now, even if the middle-aged man used explosives, he could not open the door of Huang Zhan's treasury. Charlotte picked up the torch on the ground and jumped down. Liang Tao hesitated for a moment, then jumped down. There was a passage at the bottom of the elevator. The passage was not long, and the space inside could be seen with the light of the torch. It was a natural cave, but it was very small, only the size of a house. It was not difficult to guess that Huang Zhan accidentally found this place, and then had the idea of using the natural environment here to build a treasury. Charlotte walked in with the torch. The torch was a little shaky, and the oxygen level in the air was not very high. There were many new guns in the cave, including assault rifles, pistols, and sniper rifles. There was also ammunition, no less than 100,000 rounds of different ammunition. At first glance, this place was simply an armory. In this chaotic world, firearms were also a kind of wealth. Only with guns and bullets could one ensure survival and plunder what they wanted. Liang Tao walked over to a wooden box and kicked open the lid of the box with his foot. Under the light of the torch, more than half of the box of blue currency was exposed. Charlotte was also attracted by it. He saw the words that Isotab used, and there was a blue moon person with big eyes, a small nose, and a small mouth. He did not know who it was. "This is the currency of the Blue Moon people?" Charlotte asked. Yes, Huang Zhan really earned a lot. There are at least 100,000 Blue Moon coins here. Liang Tao's voice was full of excitement. Charlotte was not interested in the pile of money at all. In his original world, he was the world's richest man. No amount of money was attractive to him. Instead, the portrait on the Blue Moon coins piqued his curiosity. "Uncle, whose portrait on the coins is it? It seems that you really don't remember anything." "He is the king of the Blue Moon people, the Eternal Moon King. Of course, this is what we translated for him. That guy's name and title can be read in 2 minutes. I still can't remember it, so you just need to remember the Eternal Moon King. Is he still alive?" "I don't know. He disappeared after the battle with Holy Thunder 1,000 years ago. We can't get any information about him." Liang Tao smiled bitterly. "But so what if we know? Whether he is alive or not, the suffering will continue for us, and we don't know when it will end." Charlotte's gaze moved to a stone platform. It was a natural stone platform shaped like a desk. There were some items on it. There were a few books, a few letters, and an ancient-looking box. Seeing the box, Charlotte suddenly had a strange feeling in his heart. Charlotte walked over. He did not pick up the books, nor did he flip through the letters. Instead, he picked up the box. The box was very light. There were no pictures or words on it. There was only a layer of red paint. Because of the age, the paint on the box was mottled. At first glance, it was probably hundreds or even thousands of years old. Chapter 1342. Charlotte opened the box. Inside the box was a piece of black ore and a well-folded animal skin. The blue ore exuded a faint blue light under the illumination of the fire, and one could vaguely see a little blue liquid flowing in the ore. Charlotte's eyes fell on the black ore, and he could no longer look away. He had not yet touched the black ore, but he could already feel the unbearable energy flowing in it. He was familiar with that feeling because he had seen a similar scene in Sky City with his own eyes. A blue energy tree grew on the huge black rock, and then it connected all the rocks in the entire Sky City. Liang Tao was also attracted by it. When he saw the black ore in the box, his reaction was the same as Charlotte's. He was instantly attracted and at the same time stunned. The two men stared at the black ore in the box without blinking. It gave people the feeling that the black ore was not flowing with pure energy, but a sexy stripper. After a full minute, Charlotte came back to his senses. He took out the small piece of black ore from his pocket and compared it with the black ore in the box. He quickly discovered that the small piece of black ore he took out could not be compared with the one in the box. The most obvious difference was that the ore in the box contained a blue energy, and the one he took out did not have it at all. This kind of comparison was like comparing the extremely high ignition point of coking coal and coal gang. Although they were both the same type of ore, their value was not the same at all. How can two spirit ores be different? Charlotte broke the silence. Liang Tao came back to his senses. Isn't this a natural law? Just like people can be tall, short, fat, and thin, there are also good and bad spirit ores. High-quality ones contain rich spiritual energy, and low-quality ones, such as the one in your hand, contain very little spiritual energy. Spiritual energy? Charlotte said. Is it the blue energy contained in spirit ores? Yes, that's what we call it. The Blue Moon people call it almost the same. We named it because of the nature of this energy, Liang Tao said. What is the nature of this energy? It's very magical. It's hard for me to describe it to you. This energy is like it has a soul. Sometimes it could link different species together to achieve a perfect communication. For example, you and a sheep. The spiritual energy contained in the phosphate rock can connect you and the sheep. Then you will feel that you and that sheep are actually a whole, and that sheep is the same as you. It will feel that it is a part of you and your thoughts are shared. You can read the sheep's thoughts, and the sheep can also read your thoughts, Liang Tao said. This description stunned Charlotte for a few seconds before he came back to his senses. What's the use of such energy? Liang Tao smiled bitterly. This is only what I know, but I know that the blue moon in the sky also uses this kind of energy, so the power of the giant spaceship is probably also one of the uses of psionic energy. In fact, Charlotte knew what the greatest use of this energy was, because he had personally seen Stone City traverse space and time to bring him here. In that case, was traveling through time and space also an ability of this energy? Combined with Liang Tao's description, this psionic energy seemed to be omnipotent. It aroused his endless imagination. What kind of energy was it? Liang Tao said, Brother, although I told you that I have been studying psionic energy all my life, I really don't know much about it. It's a big pity that I don't have the equipment. Of course, I've only come into contact with low-quality spiritual ores like the one in your hand. This is the first time I've seen a high-quality spiritual ore in the box. It's the reason why you took the risk to sneak into the Heartstone tribe, right? Liang Tao nodded. Yes, now it seems that it was worth it. He hesitated for a moment. Can you give it to me and let me take a closer look? Of course. Charlotte reached out and grabbed the spiritual ore in the box. At that moment, his brain was flooded with countless information. The information emerged in his brain, some in the form of sounds, some in the form of light and shadow, and some in the form of mysterious memory fragments. His brain was like the monitor of a computer, and it was playing a video from a distant space and time. In this video, there were dry and desolate planets, torrential rain and overwhelming tsunamis, erupting volcanoes, and clear skies and forests under the clear skies. The scene then changed, and a small blue dragon appeared in his brain. It was full of curiosity about this world. He could feel its joy and nervousness. Everything it experienced had a strange feeling that he could feel it personally. It would be best if the blue dragon died of old age, and its corpse rotted, and its body turned into nourishment to nourish a tree. The tree grew bigger and taller. The wind blew through the treetops, and the feeling of a breeze caressing his face was also formed in his brain. Brother! Liang Tao's voice. Boom! Charlotte's brain shook again, and his thoughts were cut off, returning to reality. Everything in front of him was so real, and what had just happened was like an illusion. Let me see. Liang Tao reached out his hand. Charlotte placed the spiritual ore in Liang Tao's hand, and stared at Liang Tao, waiting for his reaction. Liang Tao took the small piece of spiritual ore and turned it over and over, but nothing happened. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, What's going on? I seem to have connected with something just now. It felt like I had become a barren planet, and after hundreds of millions of years, it went from barren to giving birth to life, and then turned into a bird, a blue dragon, and a tree. But Liang Tao didn't seem to receive the information I received. What's going on? Are all the information I received recorded by this spiritual ore? Is it like an ancient disk? He couldn't imagine it, and he couldn't get an answer. At this time, Liang Tao put the high-quality spiritual ore into his trouser pocket. Charlotte frowned. What are you doing? Liang Tao smiled. Brother, you just promised me. You gave it to me, so it's mine now. Only then did Xia Lei realize that Liang Tao had just said, Can you give it to me and let me take a closer look? If this sentence was divided into two parts, to a certain extent, he had indeed promised to give it to him. I know your heart is very uncomfortable, but I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for the Revolutionary Army. Liang Tao swept away his rogue look and revealed a rare righteous spirit. This high-quality spiritual ore may help us research a way to deal with Lan Yu. It is very important to the resistance army. I hope you don't mind. Such a spiritual ore is useless to you. At most you can go to the black market to exchange it for money and women. Take it, don't talk so much nonsense, Charlotte said. Although his heart was somewhat reluctant to give up the spiritual ore, if it could help the resistance army deal with Lan Yu, it was worth it. Brother, you are a righteous person, I admire you. Liang Tao rubbed his hands, and his eyes moved to the box of Lan Yu coins. Then, the money. Take it all, just shut up. Charlotte said. I like you. Charlotte, I will definitely persuade you to join the resistance army, and also, I will tell you a secret. Liang Tao pretended to be mysterious. What secret? Charlotte's eyes moved to the animal skin in the box. Our leader, Kong Tunana, is a great beauty. Liang Tao raised his orchid fingers. If you say this again, I will take the money. Charlotte said. Liang Tao walked to the box of money, and his footsteps were very fast, as if he was afraid that Charlotte would go back on his words. Charlotte took out the well-folded animal skin, opened it, and spread it on the stone table. The animal skin was actually a map, and it was a hand-drawn map. There were Chinese characters on it, as well as the scale of the map. The scale of the map shocked Charlotte. It showed a total area of 600 million square kilometers, and the surface area of the Earth was only a little more than 500 million. But in terms of its shape, it was obviously just a part of a continent like Myanmar or Laos in Asia. There was a red line on the map, extending from the center of the map to the upper right corner of the map. The upper right corner was a vast forest with an area of almost 100 million square kilometers. Moreover, that was only a part of the forest, and the map didn't show the entire forest. In that vast forest, there were two red Chinese characters, spiritual Oregon. However, there was a question mark behind the spiritual ore. It seemed to be uncertain. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, there is an extremely high-quality spiritual ore in the box, and there is also this map, and this map is probably hundreds or thousands of years old. Could it be a treasure-hunting map from the Holy Thunder era? In such a long time, has anyone been to that forest? Has anyone found the spiritual ore? At this time, Liang Tao, who had put the money in a bag, came over. He also saw the animal skin map. He was stunned for a moment and then said, My God, isn't this the map of the Barren Province? The Barren Province? It was the first time that Charlotte had heard of it. Liang Tao said, We are standing on the land of the Barren Province. This is an ancient map, and now it is called Area 51. 1,000 years ago, the Barren Province was the easternmost area of human development. He pointed to the forest in the upper right corner. Do you see the forest here? It is an area that has not been developed by human beings. 1,000 years ago, it was called the Dark Forest, and it still has the same name. If the Holy Thunder did not die and the pace of human development did not stop, we might have opened up the Dark Forest. Chapter 1343. Desolate provinces, dark forest, spiritual ores, all these things poured into Charlotte's mind, and Charlotte's mind was filled with endless imagination. The vast dark forest also had a strong attraction for him, which was no less than the attraction of spiritual ores. He had an impulse to go to the dark forest, which had not been explored even in the Holy Thunder era. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Liang Tao suddenly said, The dark forest covers an area of 894.5 million square kilometers. In the Holy Thunder era, many explorers went into the forest in groups, but no one ever came out alive. No one came out alive? Charlotte was surprised. Not only people, but also many official and private aircraft entered the forest in the Holy Thunder era. But there are no exceptions. No matter whose flying object enters that forest, they will lose contact and then disappear, never to return. Liang Tao said. Charlotte suddenly thought of the Bermuda Triangle on Earth. Many ships and planes disappeared in that area, but no one knew why. What Liang Tao was describing now was simply a super-enhanced version of Bermuda. But the more Liang Tao said, the more interested Charlotte was in the dark forest, and the more eager he was to explore it. Brother, I have regarded you as one of the most important core members of our resistance army. Don't do anything stupid. Liang Tao's master was very worried, and he really wanted to go to the dark forest. Charlotte said, Aren't you here to look for spiritual ores? This map says that there are spiritual ores in the dark forest. Aren't you interested? Liang Tao glanced at the content marked on the map with a look of disdain. I've seen no less than 100 similar treasure maps. I've also seen a lot of fools who died because of treasure hunting. I hope you're not such a fool. Charlotte said, Okay, you have the spiritual ores and the money. I want this map. Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with a strange look. You stubborn guy, are you really going to look for treasure? Let's part here. You go your way, and I'll go mine. Charlotte walked towards the place where the weapons and ammunition were stored. He wanted to bring back some weapons and ammunition for the people of Peace Village. Are you really not going to think about it? Liang Tao did not give up. Charlotte did not even say a word to Liang Tao. He took more than a dozen guns and a large bag of ammunition and left Huang Zhan's treasury. Walking out of the cave, the cold night wind caressed his cheek. Charlotte's heart was in a mess. On the one hand, he wanted to explore the dark forest and find the answers he was looking for. On one hand, he was worried that he would die in the dark forest. If he died there, then his hope of returning to Earth to see his wife and children would be completely shattered. Liang Tao also walked out of the cave. In addition to a big bag of money, he also had several guns hanging on his body. It was not difficult to see that in addition to being a lecherous guy, he was also a greedy guy. He was the biggest winner of this treasure hunt. Where are you going? Liang Tao asked. Charlotte said, Peace Village. I'll leave after I explain to the people there. Peace Village? I've heard of that place, but I've never been there. Liang Tao said. I'm leaving, goodbye. Charlotte walked back the way he came. Liang Tao chased after Charlotte's footstep. Wait for me, I'm also going to Peace Village. It's on the way, so let's go together. Were you a plaster in your previous life? Charlotte looked at him speechlessly. Liang Tao smiled. Maybe I was a great beauty in my previous life, and there was a sad and beautiful love story between us. So God arranged for us to meet in this life. Charlotte, whether Charlotte was willing or not, Liang Tao had become Charlotte's follower. He couldn't get rid of him even if he wanted to. The two climbed up the hillside, and the Hardstone tribe in the valley once again entered their sight. The tallest metal building was still burning with a raging bonfire, which was particularly conspicuous in the darkness. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, Once the skeleton completely controls the Hardstone tribe, will he take people to attack Peace Village? If that's the case, with the strength of the Hardstone tribe, Peace Village is still no match for them. If I leave at this time, can the people of Peace Village survive? Liang Tao said, Let's go around the edge of the valley. It's indeed a shortcut to go through the Hardstone tribe, but it's too dangerous. At this moment, Charlotte suddenly moved his gaze to the west of the sky, and several small bright spots came into his view. Soon, the bright spots became bigger. They turned out to be several peculiar-looking aircraft. The spacecrafts were pieced together from various parts and materials. They looked similar, but each one was different. They looked like locusts in flight. At a glance, one could tell that they were not genuine aircraft manufactured by a manufacturer, but rather a counterfeit aircraft that he had assembled himself. However, even if they were counterfeit aircraft, in this chaotic world where even firearms and ammunition were very precious, it was enough to prove the strength of the people who owned these aircraft. That's... Liang Tao also saw the aircraft, and he suddenly became nervous. The lascivious cat's lascivious locust aircraft. The biggest bully of Area 51. What is he doing here? Lascivious locust? It was a strange name. Charlotte said, probably because Huang Zhan didn't deliver the goods on time. He may not know that Huang Zhan is dead. I killed Huang Zhan, and I found a letter on his body. That letter was written to Huang Zhan by Lascivious Cat. A strange smile appeared at the corner of Liang Tao's mouth. Then there's a good show to watch. As soon as Liang Tao's voice fell, the aircraft flying in front launched a missile. The missile drew a dazzling fiery tail in the air, and 2 seconds later, it hit the tallest metal building of the Hardstone tribe. Boom! The fire was monstrous, and the deafening explosion resounded in the wilderness. However, the tallest metal building did not collapse. It only shook slightly twice, and some debris fell. This was not surprising at all. The tallest metal building of the Hardstone tribe was built with the debris of the Blue Moon People's spaceship, and Lascivious Cat's aircraft was just a knockoff made of various parts and machinery. It was not surprising that the knockoff aircraft and missiles could not destroy the metal building of the Hardstone tribe. After the explosion, the Hardstone tribe suddenly fell into chaos. Dozens of armed men poured out of the metal building, holding guns and shooting into the sky. Soon, gunshots rang out in every corner of the tribe. However, their bullets could not reach the height of the lascivious locust at all. It was purely a waste of bullet. Thump, 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 several lascivious locusts suddenly spread out and fired machine guns at the Hardstone tribe. After a round of shooting, more than a dozen armed men of the Hardstone tribe were suddenly knocked down. The armed men who were shot were all shredded by the machine gun bullets, and they died horribly. The concentrated machine gun bullets also overturned several buildings of the Hardstone tribe. The armed men of the Hardstone tribe with assault rifles were beaten to the point that they could not fight back, and they all fled into the metal buildings. Some people without weapons escaped from the Hardstone tribe and scattered in all directions. Some of them even ran toward Charlotte and Liang Tao. "Do you still want to watch?" Liang Tao said. "Let's go and let them fight each other," Charlotte said. Whether Lascivious Cat killed the Hardstone tribe or the Hardstone tribe severely injured Lascivious Cat, it would be the best for him and Peace Village. The two of them moved from the foot of the mountain in the direction of Peace Village, but they did not go far when they suddenly heard a loudspeaker shouting in the sky. "Huang Zhan! Get out here!" It was a man's voice, and judging from the characteristics of the voice, he was about 50 years old. Liang Tao stopped and looked back at a lascivious locust in the sky. "That's the voice of Lascivious Cat. I didn't expect that guy to really come." Charlotte also looked in the direction of Liang Tao's gaze. He saw the lascivious locust facing the metal building, but it was too far away, and the cabin door of the lascivious locust was closed, so he could not see who was on it. "Brother, I see that your archery is good, and your marksmanship must be very good. You have a sniper rifle with you, can you help us kill him?" Liang Tao said. Charlotte was slightly stunned. In this situation, kill Lascivious Cat? Those lascivious locusts will soon find us and attack us. They are in the sky and we are on the ground. There is not a tree nearby, so we can't escape. Also, if we kill Lascivious Cat now, his men are very likely to attack Peace Village, and the people of Peace Village will not survive. Liang Tao said, "You can actually think of so many things. What you said makes sense. I want to kill that bully too much, so..." He was a tyrant that even the resistance army did not dare to touch. Rashly killing him would bring uncertain risk. However, after voicing out the concerns in his heart, Xia Lei had an urge to kill Lascivious Cat. "Then let's stay and see. If lascivious cat comes down, and the opportunity is right, I will kill him with a sniper rifle. Lascivious cat is at war with the hard stone tribe. If he dies here, it seems that Cat's men will blame this on the hard stone tribe. Charlotte began to look for a suitable sniping point. Liang Tao laughed. You are really fickle. What you said just now was very reasonable. Why did you suddenly change your mind? Charlotte walked towards a hillside, and said as he walked, killing a bully is also a way to get rid of a scourge for the people. If you want a reason, then this is the only reason. I like you more and more. Liang Tao followed behind Charlotte. At this time, Skeleton's voice suddenly came from the hard stone tribe. Huang Zhan is dead. If you want to find him, then go to hell to find him. Who's that? Lascivious cat's voice. It's me, Skeleton. Skeleton did not use a megaphone, but his voice was similar to lascivious cat's. Cease fire. Lascivious cat's voice. Several lascivious locusts in the sky stopped firing, but they still surrounded the hard stone tribe in the air. As long as lascivious cat gave the order, those locusts would enter combat mode in a second and pour ammunition on the hard stone tribe. Skeleton also shouted, "Cease fire." The people of the hard stone tribe also stopped firing. They walked out of their bunkers and waited for Skeleton's next instructions. Skeleton. Lascivious cat's voice said, "Would you like to talk?" "What do you want to talk about?" Skeleton's voice said. "Of course, to talk about business." Lascivious cat's voice said, "Huang Zhan is dead. You are the new leader of the hard stone tribe. You are qualified to do business with me. I can give you the same conditions I gave Huang Zhan. Money, weapons, and ammunition, I can give them to you. If you do business with me, the hard stone tribe will become stronger and stronger. Come down, let's talk." Skeleton's voice said. "Come out. Given what happened just now, I won't walk into your tribe to talk to you." Lascivious cat's voice said. "Okay, then I'll come out and talk to you." Skeleton's voice said. Through the scope of the Avenger 1000, Charlotte saw Skeleton grab a rope from the top of the metal building and slide down. He fell very fast, making it difficult to lock on to him with a sniper rifle. However, Skeleton was not his target. As long as he locked on to Skeleton with his eyes, he could find Lascivious Cat. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.